Suddenly realizing her actions, Yu Miaodan quickly said, "Excuse me, that was an accident." "Well then, now I'll read out the names of the companies who will partner with us." Suddenly realizing her actions, Yu Miaodan quickly said, "Excuse me, that was an accident." "Well then, now I'll read out the names of the companies who will partner with us." Everyone thought to themselves, accident? She clearly almost broke the table. How was that an accident? Of course, everyone only considered this internally. No one would come out to say it. Besides, the names were about to be announced, and everyone was holding their breath. Yu Miaodan cleared her throat and said, "After our critical analysis, we have selected the 3 partners for Asia, Africa and Europe/US. Chile Corporation will be our African sector partner. They may have 5 subcontractors. As soon as Yu Miaodan's words sounded, the Chile Corporation representative stood up and clapped in joy, which soon brought everyone in the scene to applaud. America's Luoluo Corporation will be our Euro/US partner. They may have 20 subcontractors. As Yu Miaodan read, Luoluo Corporation was also very excited. Everyone's guess was right. Because the number 1 corporation didn't come, Luoluo, who was ranked second, got the spot. After the applause died down, Yu Miaodan continued, China's U-State Feiyu Corporation will be our Asian partner. They may have 20 subcontractors. Different from before, this time, the scene was dead silent. Too silent. If Yu Miaodan didn't start to clap, everyone would have thought COU had misspoken. What? How could it be Feiyu Corporation? Yeah, it should be Yuanbei Corporation or Lianfeng Corporation. Even if it was us, it shouldn't be Feiyu. This is impossible. There was heated discussion. They didn't believe some small, unknown Feiyu Corporation could get the spot. Shock, jealousy. All sorts of emotions filled the scene. No one wanted to believe it. Though were all still coming back to their senses. This was deemed impossible yet became reality. Qingxue, am I dreaming? How can it be our Feiyu Corporation? Li Mumei seemed to have just woken up. Ning Qingxue was also in shock. What was going on? Ning Zhongfei was dumbfounded. Although he'd also tried, he never would have thought they would get chosen. His highest goal was to be a subcontractor. But immediately, all the companies started to come over and cheer for them. Then, he realized it was real, more real than gold. There was only one sentence in his mind. The tables have turned. Finally. Qingxue, it really is our Feiyu Corporation. This is real. Li Mumei confirmed. Out of all of Asia, it was their company. After her initial joy, Ning Qingxue asked hesitantly, Why is it like this? How can it be our company? CO Ning, I'm the representative for Donggu Corporation, Qian Qi, this is my name card. I'm the representative for Lianfeng Corporation. Hello, CO Ning. Ning Zhongfei looked at the representatives rushing in at him in disbelief. His hands were sore from all the name cards he took. Yuanbei Corporation was in even greater disbelief. Even if it wasn't their corporation, it shouldn't be Feiyu. This is impossible. COU, our Yuanbei Corporation is ranked first in Asia. Why is the spot taken by a tiny company like Feiyu? Why? Yuan Qibing looked at the boisterous scene and yelled, unable to bear the reality. Yu Miaodan said plainly, During our selection process, every company is equal. You're the first in Asia? How come I don't know? So what if you are? That is the past. There's some backdoor agreement, some dodgy deals. I don't agree. Yuan Qibing yelled in anger. He didn't notice what Yu Miaodan meant. She meant that since there was Luoyu, other companies won't be number 1. Yu Miaodan slammed the table again. Yuan Qibing, this is our Luoyu conference. You have no right to point fingers. We don't welcome you here, get out. You, what right do you have to tell me to get out? We're giving you face by coming. Don't think just because you have a little beauty pill, you're anything great. We can still seal away a small company like you. My intention is that you should report this to your superiors. Some things aren't for a manager to decide. Don't lose out your company's interests like this. Yuan Qibing was so angry that he forgot about staying low to get the beauty pill recipe. The scene quieted down. No one expected to see this scene. People were immediately watching the good show. Yuan Qibing had some reason to his words, after all. Luo Yu was only a small and new corporation. How dare they fight Yuan Bei? It wasn't impossible for Yuan Bei to seal up Luo Yu. If the beauty pill recipe leaked, then Luo Yu would be over. Even if the recipe didn't spill, it wasn't impossible for China's biggest pharmaceutical corporation to block a newly established company. Almost everyone looked towards Yu Miaodan and wanted to see if Luo Yu would stand down. Li Mumei looked at Ning Qingxue and said, Qingxue, if COU agrees to them, or feels threatened by them, what should we do? Ning Qingxue smiled and shook her head. She could tell that Yu Miaodan was no simple person. If she was so easily threatened by Yuan Qibing, then Luo Yu wouldn't let her be the head manager. Yu Miaodan sneered and said in a clear voice, From now on, Luo Yu will reject any cooperation with Yuan Bei. On top of that, I will make a clear statement that any business involved with Yuan Bei will not be able to cooperate with Luo Yu. If we find out, we will immediately cancel any involvement. This is the first part of the agreement for those who wish to collaborate with us. Yuan Qibing was so angry he couldn't say anything. How could she be like that? She wasn't here to do business but to throw her temper around. There was no such section in agreements all over the world that if Company A had conflict with Company B, then those involved with Company B would no longer be able to collaborate with Company A, even if there was the slightest involvement, alright? This was being childish, yet this childish statement was listed as the first and foremost part of the agreement. Everyone sighed. Although this was being childish, it was also being cruel. Yuan Qibing finally met someone more ruthless than him. Yu Miaodan had always had a smile on her face, but when she attacked, she would kill. Yuan Qibing had let out tough words, but before he could even make a move, Luo Yu attacked first. People wondered what Yuan Bei would do next, and who would win eventually. Han Zai! Yu Miaodan yelled. Here! Drag out irrelevant people in this room. They are not welcomed here. Yu Miaodan said expressionlessly. Yes. Han Zai walked ferociously towards Yuan Qibing with his 1.9m tall figure. Yuan Qibing almost spat blood in anger. He wanted to say some tough words but was grabbed by the neck by Han Zai and dragged out like a chicken. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Luo Yu was acting like hoodlums. This wasn't like a head manager at all. Little did they know, Yu Miaodan was the boss lady of a mafia before. Li Mumei breathed out in ease and said, This is really satisfying. Not only are we chosen, that scum even got what he deserved. I'm uncomfortable seeing his cocky face. I admire the COU to the bones. Ning Qingxue smiled. Let's think about this later. Before we had nothing to do, but now we have too much. We still need to recruit 20 subcontractors. This is a challenge for us. Yeah, that's right, we haven't had such glory in a long time. This Luo Yu Corporation is really nice. By the way, what if someone like Yuan Qibing in Luo Yu also wants you? Li Mumei questioned nervously. Ning Qingxue looked back and rolled her eyes. You really think too much. Alright, everyone please wait. The 3 selected partners may send out representatives to have detailed negotiations. Then Yu Miaodan went into the smaller room. Alright, everyone please wait. The 3 selected partners may send out representatives to have detailed negotiations. Then Yu Miaodan went into the smaller room. Afterwards, the 3 company representatives stood up in the admiring eyes of everyone else and sent 2 people with Yu Miaodan to go in. However, Ning Zhongfei didn't go in. He let Ning Qingxue and Li Mumei go in. When the company representatives sat down, what shocked the other 2 companies was that COU of Luo Yu personally brought a chair for Ning Qingxue to sit down on. COU, I can do this myself. Although Ning Qingxue's character didn't make her very likable, she was still shocked when the COU of Luo Yu carried a chair for her personally. Li Mumei was even more astonished. Things seemed to be a bit strange. Not only was their company chosen as a partner, but COU of Luoyu seemed to be too polite to Ning Qingxue. Was it really what she had guessed? Li Mumei started to worry. The specifics were very simple to negotiate, as most had already been preset by Luoyu. There weren't much problems. After seeing the strong temperament of Yu Miaodan, the other three companies didn't fuss over the minor errors. Compared to the profit they would be earning, this was nothing. After the negotiation, the other two companies left, yet Yu Miaodan had Ning Qingxue stay behind. This made Ning Qingxue feel uncertain. Was it really like what Li Mumei had said? If that was the case, she would rather not have the spot. Seeing Ning Qingxue's confusion, Yu Miaodan quickly said, "CEO Ning, it's like this. We have very sophisticated technology, and there'll be a lot of things for your company to learn, so I want our tech people to help you and stay in your Feiyu Corporation for now." Ning Qingxue's heart sunk. It was that indeed. Was the person coming to help someone like Li Mumei had suggested? But COU didn't mention anything of the sort. The person was just coming to help. Perhaps she was overthinking. Not to mention that now, if Luoyu didn't help Feiyu, they would be closing down for sure. Thinking about this, Ning Qingxue nodded. "That's good, thank you COU." Yu Miaodan smiled and said, "Not a problem, CO Ning. If you don't mind, just call me Sister Yu. I really like your name." "Of course, Sister Yu. Please take care of me." If Ning Qingxue still didn't get that Yu Miaodan was purposely trying to be nice to her, then she would be an idiot. Yu Miaodan smiled sweetly. "Don't say that. Of course I will take care of you, Qingxue. You will also be helping me in the future." Then Yu Miaodan pointed to Luo Fei and said, "Qingxue, she's Louis Fei, our company's master at recognizing herbs. Yifei, Qingxue just started collaborating with us. There'll be many places they need help with. Can you go with them for a while and help them?" Louis Fei smiled and said, "Of course. Qingxue, I'll be freeloading off of you from now on." Ning Qingxue quickly greeted and thought, this woman is such a beauty. Funny how she was thinking about other random things. Luoyu was so glorious now, why would they use underhanded means? Although Ning Qingxue thought like that, Li Mumei thought different. She thought that this COU was too nice to Qingxue. This seemed eerie. They weren't the only partner chosen, so why did the other two companies not get this treatment? This wasn't the main thing. The main thing was that COU asked to be sisters with Qingxue. And her last words were rather intriguing. COU would be needing Qingxue's help in the future? What did this mean? Li Mumei as a bystander didn't think this was a polite thing to say. After a greeting with Louis Fei, Ning Qingxue turned around and asked Yu Miaodan, "Sister Yu, you are the big boss of Luoyu, but there's one thing I don't understand. Our company isn't that competitive. Why did you choose to give the spot to us?" Yu Miaodan was dazed and had a strange look on her face, though she quickly reacted and said, "Our true boss likes your father, and says your father can make big decisions. He told us to give the Asian spot to Feiyu." Yu Miaodan wouldn't spill things since Yemo didn't say anything. And from what Yang Jiu said, there seems to be some misunderstanding between Ning Qingxue and Yemo. If she spoke of Yemo, perhaps Ning Qingxue would refuse to collaborate, and how would she relay this back to Yemo? Ning Qingxue questioned hesitantly, "Sister Yu, do I need to see your big boss?" Yu Miaodan quickly answered, "No need, no need. Our boss will go to your company to find you. He knows your father. You just need to know that you were selected due to the relationship between our big boss and your father. There's not really much more to it other than that." Hearing that, Ning Qingxue couldn't really say anything else. She could only wait for this mysterious big boss of Luoyu to come see her. But at last she had calmed down a little. At least she knew the reason they were chosen. When Yu Miaodan and Ning Qingxue came to the conference hall, she found her father surrounded by pharmaceutical corporate representatives. "Qingxue, you go worry about your subcontractors first. I still have things to deal with here. If you need help, just ask for Louis Fei or come find me." Yu Miaodan left behind a name card and left. Li Mumei looked at the pharmaceutical representatives and couldn't help but utter contemptuously, "Not long ago, they tried to stay away from us, yet now, they're surrounding us. They're really shameless. Ning Qingxue said plainly. People walk to higher places. In front of interest, face is worth nothing for most people. Sister Fei, do a lot of people go to find COU every day? Li Mumei asked. Luo Fei shook her head and said, I just joined Luoyu. I haven't even been to Flowing Snake HQ yet, so I really don't know. Huh, you haven't even been to Flowing Snake? Then why would COU send you to help our company? Li Mumei was really confused. Luo Fei smeed but didn't answer. Of course she knew why. COU told her that Yuan Qibing wasn't a kind-hearted person, therefore since Qingxue had offended him, he would try to get revenge. Luo Yu HQ had a mass of masters and they weren't afraid of anyone, but Ning Qingxue didn't have anyone to protect her. If Qingxue suffered under Yuan Qibing's vindictive plans, then what would they say to Yemo when he came back? Because Yemo had said Lui Fei was a master, Yu Miaodan discussed with Luo Fei for her to go to Fei Yu and protect Ning Qingxue. There were a lot of masters in Flowing Snake now, but most of them were men. Furthermore, Ning Qingxue was very important in Yu Miaodan's heart. So the best person to protect her was Luo Fei, because she was a woman. If the hidden sects knew that the core disciple of Xiaheng Jing Temple would come to protect a normal city woman, their first reaction would be disbelief. However, Luo Fei didn't feel like that. In her eyes, her life had been saved by Yemo, so it was normal to protect his wife. The only problem was that she didn't know if there was anything between her little martial sister Luo Xian and Yemo. Sister Qingxue. Long time no see. A youth walked in front of Ning Qingxue and smiled. Cousin Ning Yang, how come you're here? I didn't find you amongst them before. Ning Qingxue had a face full of joy. If there was one person she was grateful to in the Ning family, it was her cousin Ning Yang. When everyone wanted to sell her to the Song family, he had come and told her to escape. Ning Yang had even tried to help her go abroad. The reason why she could escape Beijing was this cousin's help. Although Li Mumei only told her some of it afterwards, she was really grateful to her cousin. Brother Yang, I know. Those Ning family people want you to come for a subcontract with Qingxue, right? Li Mumei said straightforwardly. Ning Yang nodded his head awkwardly. Indeed, they chose me to come here. Second and fourth uncle are too embarrassed to ask your dad, so they told me to come. I really didn't want to come, but at the moment, the Ning family business is being managed by my big brother. If I don't come, it will damage my relationship with my brother. But Qingxue, don't worry. If it's fine, then perfect, but if not, then just tell me. Ning Qingxue looked hesitantly at Ning Yang. If it was his own business, she would agree without hesitation, but she didn't want to have any connections with anyone else in the Ning family. Yemo avoided this patrol fleet and flew tiredly for another hour or so before seeing land. After that, he knew he must have been far off from his original journey. Now, he didn't have any coordinates on him, nor could he understand a thing the people were saying there. Yemo avoided this patrol fleet and flew tiredly for another hour or so before seeing land. After that, he knew he must have been far off from his original journey. Now, he didn't have any coordinates on him, nor could he understand a thing the people were saying there. Yemo found a place with few people and landed. He'd used up a lot of chi essence and needed to recover. Perhaps he had overrushed his trip here. Yemo just realized that he didn't have any US dollars or any identification on him. It was very spacious here. Even though Yemo waited for a long time, he still didn't find anyone he could ask for directions. Just when Yemo was prepared to go to a place with more people, a pickup truck drove over rapidly, catching Yemo's attention. The pickup appeared very normal at first glance, but the 5 people in it, driver included, didn't. Everyone had a gun, and the truck had been modified. The trunk was empty. What made Yemo decide to follow this pickup was that there were the words, "I will get revenge," in Chinese on it. It was very small yet still couldn't escape from Yemo's spirit sense. What Yemo found unexpected was that this car stopped at a hidden place not far from a shop. Other than the driver, all other 4 men walked into 2 different shops not far off. Yemo followed them and walked into one of the shops. He was going to ask how far San Francisco was from here and see what these four wanted to do. But as soon as he got in, a fat police officer noticed Yemo. He immediately looked vigilant and walked over. Yemo noticed this policeman and frowned. If he asked him about his origins, then he would have no choice but to attack. This officer really had nothing to do. Instead of asking those two suspicious black guys, he came to ask him. "Help!" At this moment, there was a sharp yell and the fat policeman looked to the back. The two black men were robbing the store, and the store owner was yelling for help. He was being taken into hostage by one of the black men. The fat police officer immediately drew his gun. Yemo shook his head. He didn't expect them to make such a ruckus just to rob a store. If he had known this earlier, he wouldn't even have bothered following them. He saw the Chinese on the car and thought these people would know Chinese. Just when Yemo was about to leave, one of the black men neared him. Yemo immediately knew that these people were looking for hostages and stopped moving. He thought, it's good to have a free driver. As expected, the black robber controlled Yemo and knocked out the store owner, after which he started to look for things. What made Yemo confused was that they were dumping the spare change all over the place. Were these people not here for a robbery? Why didn't they want money? Soon Yemo knew that these people weren't here for money. He didn't know what they were looking for, but from how they were flipping over everything, Yemo knew it had to be in either one of the two stores. Yemo saw that robust-looking store owner and realized why they took him as the hostage. It was obvious he was easy to bully. Although Yemo was also around 1.8 m, he was still shaggy compared to the 1.9 m tall store owner. Not to mention, this store owner had bulky muscles. In the distance, a police siren sounded with two more policemen coming for backup. There was another yell from the other store. They probably found what they wanted, and Yemo was brought out by the two black men. They chose Yemo and the other store owner to be hostages. They charged onto the pickup truck and started it up. There was no more space in the front, so the two black men dumped him along with the store owner into the modified trunk. By the time the police cars arrived, they had already disappeared. Yemo noticed that they had a small black case in their possession. That case was probably what they had been looking for. Yemo sent his spirit sense in. It turned out to be bags of cocaine. So they were drug dealers? Yemo immediately understood, but how did they know the drugs were hidden in the store? The pickup went very fast and merged into the traffic. Half an hour later, the vehicle drove onto some open land. The big bearded black man called out, and the car slowed down. Soon afterwards, two men came and dumped the store owner off the road. The other two were coming to throw Yemo away. Yemo grabbed the two instead, shattered their arteries and dumped them outside the car. The three people in front heard the ensuing sound and thought Yemo had also been thrown out. They didn't even turn back, just going onto a small road as they continued driving the car. An hour later, the truck stopped outside a private mansion. The two black men and the driver came out. Yemo thought, they really went a great distance just to commit one crime. When the bearded black man saw Yemo, he was stunned and immediately yelled out. Yemo didn't understand what these guys were saying, probably asking who he was and stuff. He just walked up and held the bearded man in the air. "Take me to someone who can understand my words." The two black men on the side would be turning to fire. Yemo didn't even look and just threw two fireballs. Like this, they immediately turned into flying dust. The big bearded guy looked at Yemo dumbfounded. He muttered something with a face full of fear. Although he didn't understand what Yemo said, he could guess it and pointed to the room, muttering some more. Big Beard brought Yemo into a sealed underground basement and opened the door. Yemo found that there were a few cases. Yemo was thinking that he was simply looking for someone who spoke Chinese, so why would this guy bring him here? Yemo went over to the case and opened it. It was full of dollars. There was at least 1 million in here. These robbers were really rich. Yemo just took this cash into his storage ring. He didn't have any US dollars right now, hence this case of USD was perfect. The big beard saw Yemo turn a case of money into nothing and almost stared his eyes out. Yemo opened a few more cases where there were some simple firearms. Yemo didn't care about them, and these firearms looked really shabby. Yemo wasn't even interested in taking them. Just when Yemo was going to ask the big beard where San Francisco was, he saw a map hanging on the wall. Yemo looked along the sea for a long time and finally found San Francisco. He pulled Big Beard over and pointed at the floor. "Where is this?" Big Beard guessed what Yemo meant and used his finger to point at Daly City. So he was apparently at Daly City. Although it wasn't far from San Francisco, there was still some distance. Knowing his direction, Yemo had no intention to keep Big Beard and turn him into dust too. Afterwards, he found a clean place to cultivate for a few hours before stepping on his flying sword towards San Francisco. San Francisco, and Jia Street. A figure suddenly appeared here, Yemo, who had just arrived. He had called over a taxi as soon as he landed. Yemo couldn't understand what the cabbie was saying, so he tried. "I want to go to Chinatown." "Okay." The cabbie gestured Yemo to get on. Yemo rejoiced. This man spoke Chinese. As if guessing his thoughts, the driver let Yemo know he couldn't understand Chinese. He said in a very weird tone, "I know little Chinese." But Yemo didn't mind. All he needed was to find Chinatown, and everything would be good. Surely there were people who understood Chinese in Chinatown. An hour later, Yemo appeared before Mingyu Tower. Due to the time difference, by the time Yemo arrived, it was afternoon. Yemo walked into the Mingyu Tower, which was decorated in an ancient Chinese style. An old man in his 50s with glasses sat there, focused, reading a book. "May I ask what you want?" A young waiter in his 20s saw Yemo come in and asked. Yemo scanned the antiques on the shelves and inquired. "This bracelet was sold from here, right?" Yemo passed the bracelet to that waiter. The man took it and replied, "Yeah, we sold this a few days ago. I guess is there some problem with it?" "Grandpa." The old man reading the book put it down and walked over. He took the bracelet and looked at it a few times before nodding. "Indeed, this was sold from our place. Do you have any questions?" Yemo smiled. "I'd just like to know where it came from." "This?" The old man took off his glasses and looked troubled. It was usually taboo to ask where things came from, yet Yemo asked it without second thought. Yemo took out a stack of dollars around 10K's worth and put it on the table. "Boss, this is your payment, take it." Just from looking at the thickness of the stack, the old man knew there had to be at least 10.000 in it. One question for 10K. This young man was too rich even if he didn't seem all that well dressed. Just from looking at the thickness of the stack, the old man knew there had to be at least 10.000 in it. One question for 10K. This young man was too rich even if he didn't seem all that well dressed. "I am the one who gave the bracelet to old he. Don't trouble him. If there's anything, just ask me." A deep voice sounded at the door. A middle-aged man with a scar on his Adam's apple came in. It looked like a bullet scar. Although it was blocked by his hair, Yemo could see it with his spirit sense. If the bullet had gone just a little more to the side, this man would be dead. He had calluses all over his hands. Yemo didn't know what he did for a living, but the man had some killing chi on him. It was obvious he had killed and not just once. He was a tough guy. Yet no matter how tough he was, it was just like floating clouds in front of Yemo. Yemo said plainly, "Tell me where the bracelet came from, and the money is yours." The middle-aged man sneered and took the money without a shred of hesitation before saying, "A friend of mine in the US asked me to sell this for him. This friend was having it tough, so he sold the only valuable possession he had. Take me to see this friend of yours," Yemo demanded without beating around the bush. The middle-aged man suddenly smiled. "I've already told you where the bracelet came from. Sorry, but I can't help you with anything else." Then a knife suddenly appeared in his hands, and it spun like a flower. Yemo glanced at the knife and said again, "I'll give you another 10 grand. Lead the way." The middle-aged man shook his head. I won't show you the way. There's nothing good about you finding the owner of the bracelet. San Francisco isn't a happy place, brother. Afterwards, the man sliced in the air with the knife. That's my business. You don't need to worry about me, so just lead the way. Yemo's tone went cold as though not seeing the knife in the man's hands. What if I don't want to? The middle-aged man also heard the change in tone. His tone grew stiff as well. I believe you will. After saying this, Yemo took out a gun and pointed it at the man. Han Zixin had given him this gun. To Yemo, it was really useless, however it could be used to threaten people. If he needed to kill, he wouldn't use a gun. The middle-aged man stared at the pistol, and his face suddenly changed. He went silent for some time, not rebuking Yemo. He packed away his knife and nodded. Okay, I'll lead the way. But before I do, I want to talk with you alone. Yemo looked strangely at the middle-aged man and thought, from the looks of this man, he doesn't seem like someone to succumb so easily. So why did he? Yemo still reminded him. There's no need for you to take out the knife you packed away, and neither will you need to take out the gun on you. Otherwise, my gun might fire accidentally. As for a talk alone, I'm not particularly interested, but since you want it, let's go. The man didn't seem to notice Yemo's gun and turned to the store owner saying, Old He, I'll borrow your room for a moment. Old He nodded and didn't talk. He picked up that book again and continued reading. It was as though nothing had happened just then. Mingyu Tower wasn't big, but it was very quiet. The middle-aged man was obviously someone who came here frequently. He just opened the door and waited for Yemo to come in before closing it. Before Yemo sat down, he suddenly took out a gun and at the same time shot at Yemo's wrist. Yemo had been threatened by many people, and he had seen many people fire. None were as fast as this man taking out a gun. It had taken less than half a second. Such a short time, such a short distance. It could be said no one would be capable of dodging this bullet, except for Yemo. Yemo didn't even have to dodge. The gun in his hands disappeared. What took its place was a golden bullet caught between his two fingers. You. The middle-aged man realized that Yemo had caught his bullet with two fingers and could no longer stay indifferent like before. Yemo squeezed his fingers and this bullet turned into a V shape. Then, he stared coldly at the middle-aged man and said, This is your first and last warning. If you dare shoot again, I will turn you into a corpse. If you hadn't shot at my wrist just then, you would have already been dead. Who the hell are you? The man finally woke up from the extreme shock. His tone was still shaky. He had seen too many masters but none as strong as Yemo catching a bullet with his mere hands, no, a mere two fingers, and from such a short distance? And he could even bend the bullets with his fingers? This wasn't something he could comprehend. He was in extreme terror and shock. Yemo pronounced coldly, Who I am is not important. What's important is that I'm asking you, not you asking me. The man wiped the sweat from his forehead and took away the gun. He wasn't afraid of dying, rather simply shocked by Yemo's power. I'm Sher Kai-jin. People also call me Fly on Grass. Qian Bei, if you have anything to ask, just ask. There was respect in his eyes. Yemo wouldn't even need a gun to kill him. It would take only a few seconds with nothing but his bare hands. Without a doubt, Yemo was one of those legendary Chinese ancient martial artists. I don't have anything to ask. I'm not interested in who you are either. I just need you to take me to see the owner of this bracelet. Yemo said plainly. Sher Kai-jin smiled bitterly. If it was someone else who had the guts to talk to him like this, he would have slapped them already. But he didn't dare do that to Yemo. He carefully made some tea for Yemo before saying, In Chinatown, San Francisco, there are many gangs. Us Chinese usually belong to Tang Gang and Hong Martial Gang. Other than these two, there's also a Vietnamese gang, and some other native gangs. Yemo didn't interrupt Sher Kai-jin. Since he was talking about these gangs, it meant that it was related to the bracelet. 20 years ago, there was a Chinese man called Peng Wahan who illegally migrated to San Francisco. With him at the time was also a woman. However, that woman was heavily injured. At the time, There were even more gangs than now, and the US government couldn't manage them all. There were fights and killings every day. In order to survive, Peng Wahan established the Chinese gang and took in large amounts of Chinese brothers. As time went on, the Chinese gang grew big and people in the gang called the woman Sister Yen. Hearing about this, Yemo had a feeling that the woman who came with Peng Hanwen might be related to him. Shi Kaijian continued. 10 years later, the Chinese gang was the definition of strength in San Francisco, and small gangs didn't even dare mess with the Chinese gang, yet at this time, something happened to the Chinese gang. The big boss of the Southeast Asian gang Grey Alliance, Jason, once saw the woman Peng Wahan had brought to America and immediately wanted her. Not only did Peng Hanwen disagree, he was furious, after which the two clans clashed. The Chinese gang wasn't afraid of Grey Alliance, but due to a traitor, Peng Wahan was assassinated, and the Chinese gang splintered into pieces. Yemo frowned. Jason was the big boss of the Southeast Asian gang. Why would he fight with the Chinese gang over a woman, nonetheless a fight to the death? This wasn't as simple as it seemed. Shi Kaijian continued. After the Chinese gang splintered, Sister Yen was nowhere to be seen, but it was said that she wasn't taken by Jason. Later on, the surviving brothers of the Chinese gang established Tang Gang and Hong Martial Gang in Chinatown. I have a friend at Hong Martial Gang. He strongly wanted me to join them, and he wanted me to sell that bracelet. He also told me that Sister Yen once wore the bracelet. Since it's hers, why is it being sold? Yemo asked. Shi Kaijian shook his head. Truth is, Sister Yen wasn't welcomed by the brothers in the gang. You could argue that the Chinese gang is gone due to her. There weren't a lot of people who liked Sister Yen. Of course, the main reason is because Hong Martial Gang is about to have a big serious clash with Mountain Gang. It's said that the Vietnamese gang will be supporting Mountain Gang, so my friend wanted to leave. He's selling the bracelet to get some money. Where is that friend of yours? Yemo immediately asked. Shi Kaijian answered. He owns a house in a street in Chinatown. Although I know the approximate location, I don't know where exactly. But if Qian Bei wants to see him, it's very simple. I can arrange to meet him tomorrow. Yemo sneered. I want to see him now. Take me there immediately. Shi Kaijian looked at Yemo in shock. How could we do that? If we go to Hong Martial Gang's HQ now, wouldn't that be dash? Shi Kaijian looked at Yemo in shock. How could we do that? If we go to Hong Martial Gang's HQ now, wouldn't that be dash? As though realizing his tone wasn't right, Shi Kaijian quickly said. Qian Bei, I know you're very strong, the strongest I have seen actually, but you can't take on that many. More than that, there are a lot of masters in Hong Martial Gang. I heard there are some ancient martial arts cultivators, and their weapons are the advanced ones from the US mob. If you go alone you might. Yemo smiled plainly. You don't need to worry, you just have to take me there. Shi Kaijian looked at the V-shaped bullet Yemo had dumped on the ground and picked it up. Then, he bit his teeth. Okay, I'll go with Qian Bei. Men die with their dick facing up. It's my honor to meet a master like Qian Bei. Yemo looked at Shi Kaijian and said, You just need to bring me near there. There's no need for you to go in yourself. Shi Kaijian shook his head and disagreed. No, to be honest, I've never seen someone as powerful as Qian Bei. I respect you from the bottom of my heart, and I want to go in of my own will. Although my power is nothing compared to Qian Bei, I'm still pretty good in the Chinatown circle. I just wish to follow Qian Bei. If I can learn a move or two, it will be my biggest fortune. This Shi Kaijian had some good eyes, but Yemo didn't intend to bring him. He said honestly, I came here to do a couple of things, and after I'm done, I will leave the US. However, Shi Kaijian replied, If Qian Bei is willing to take me with you, I'm willing to leave the States. I have no one here. I've been staying to get revenge, but it's been more than 10 years. My enemies have only gotten stronger and stronger. I have no expectations anymore. If possible, I just wish to follow Qian Bei for some time. So he wanted revenge. The reason he was risking death to follow him was to learn martial arts to get revenge. This Shirkai-jin was very decisive, and didn't seem to be someone cruel. It would be fine to take him in. Although Shirkai-jin thought it was a fight for life going to Hong martial gang with Emo, but to Emo, it was just a casual stroll. Taking this into consideration, Emo nodded. In that case, enter together with me. Now lead the way. The old man with the glasses downstairs looked on in shock as Shirkai-jin walked out with Emo. He knew Shirkai-jin brought Emo up to bash him up, yet now, he came out like a good little boy. Hong martial gang was renowned throughout Chinatown. Although their fame wasn't as high as the Chinese gangs from before, amidst the forest of gangs, there was a clear place for Hong martial gang. Qingyang Street, Hong-style 7-kill fist dojo was here. The reason why Shirkai-jin knew the whereabouts of the Hong martial gang's HQ was because he knew this dojo was where things happened. The dojo was open to students, but little did they know this dojo was related to the Hong martial gang. Shirkai-jin only knew because his friend was in the Hong martial gang. Under his lead, Emo soon arrived at the Hong-style 7-kill fist dojo. However, he was stopped at the door. Emo scanned his spirit sense in and saw people practicing martial arts. This is Hong-style 7-kill fist, please stop. If you want to sign up, come back a month later. It was a Chinese person as well guarding at the door. It was also Shirkai-gin's first time here. Usually, his friend would come looking for him instead, and he wouldn't come here, because if he did, he might be investigated. If it wasn't due to special reasons, Shirkai-jin wouldn't want to be remembered by the gangs. Xianbei, you can probably find a lead here. Shirkai-jin turned around and said to Emo. Emo smiled. Brother Shir, you're older than me. You don't need to call me Qianbei. My surname is Yi. Shirkai-jin said joyfully. In that case, Brother Yi, I won't be too polite. Still, since I'm following you, I'll just call you Brother Yi. Shirkai-jin wasn't dumb. If he wanted to learn from Emo, he needed to understand his position. Emo didn't mind how Shirkai-jin referred to him. He just told that guard. Simply tell them someone is here to challenge the dojo. Get your dojo leader here or else you want to fucking die. This man didn't even report, and just punched at Emo's face. Emo didn't seem to see the fist, and just kicked out. His leg arrived first, and the guard was kicked flying away and smashed into a vase that was around human height. The vase shattered. Shirkai-jin shook his head and his rating of Hong martial gang lowered. It wasn't because the guard couldn't take a single kick from Emo, but because the guard shouldn't have attacked first. No matter whether he could beat Emo or not, since Emo said he came to challenge the dojo, he should stay calm and report back. The reason being that if the person who came was very strong, what the guard did might create a strong enemy for Hong martial gang. Who are you? Why are you causing trouble at our Hong-style 7-kill fist dojo? Seeing the fight at the door, a sturdy-looking dark-faced man walked over. He didn't attack first but saluted with his fist and asked. My big brother wanted to see the dojo leader, but this guard didn't let us and attacked first. That's why my big brother taught him a lesson, Shirkai-jin said. The black-faced man then noticed Shirkai-jin behind Emo and asked confusedly. You are Fly on Grass, right? Since when did our dojo have a feud with your big brother? Shirkai-jin didn't know the black-faced man, but it was normal for him to be recognized. He had some reputation in Chinatown after all. Anyway, he smiled and stated, I never said we have a feud with your dojo. It's just that my big brother wants to see your dojo leader, but the guard didn't let us. The man's face sunk. Fly on Grass, our dojo doesn't want to cause trouble, but that doesn't mean we're scared of you. If everyone who came could see our dojo leader, then he wouldn't need to do anything but just seeing people all the time. Emo's spirit sense had already found someone looking at the situation, so he sneered. Don't talk bullshit. If you don't call your dojo leader here, I will tear this dojo to the ground. Emo's words touched the bottom line of the black-faced man who tucked his shirt in contemptuously and said, In that case I, Wang Jun, will test you out. Emo shook his head and insulted. You haven't even touched the door to martial arts. You don't have to fight me. I only need one more kick to break another vase. This Wang Jun wasn't even yellow level. He was at most a normal martial artist. Yemo really wasn't interested. Hearing Yemo's words, Wang Jun's face turned red in fury. Although he wasn't the strongest in Hong-style 7-kill fist dojo, he could definitely rank in the top 10. And this guy who seemed younger than him said he could kick him away with one leg to any position he chose. He wouldn't believe it no matter what. He just felt this person was too cocky. Even the dojo leader couldn't kick him away with one leg. Although Wang Jun was angry, he wasn't careless. Since this person said that, it meant he had some degree of power. He took his stance and spun his fist in a flower, smashing towards Yemo with fist winds. Wang Jun used his strongest move as soon as he attacked. He didn't underestimate Yemo at all. This punch had been modified from Muay Thai. It carried the name Waving Hook Fist. Wang Jun had beaten many masters with this move. If not for that, he wouldn't be an instructor for the dojo. Yemo didn't even move. When Wang Jun's fist came in front of him, he suddenly took a step forward and kicked. Wang Jun saw that Yemo dared come closer and rejoiced. But before his brain could even process it, he was kicked in the chest by Yemo. His fist had clearly reached Yemo, yet for some reason it didn't even touch Yemo's clothes. After that, Wang Jun felt a huge force to his chest. Wang Jun's heart sunk. It was over. As expected, Wang Jun seemed to have grown eyes behind his back as he smashed into the remaining vase, completely shattering it. The entire dojo went silent. The students had stopped because the guard was beaten up, but after Wang Jun came to talk with Yemo, all those students had gathered around. They didn't expect the clash to be just one kick and their martial arts instructor to be sent flying exactly to where Yemo had pointed out before. Nice moves, friend, a deep voice sounded. At the same time, a man in gray robes walked out. He had a smile on his face as though not minding Yemo kicking over 2 vases and 2 people but genuinely complimenting Yemo's power. Nice moves, friend, a deep voice sounded. At the same time, a man in gray robes walked out. He had a smile on his face as though not minding Yemo kicking over 2 vases and 2 people but genuinely complimenting Yemo's power. Yemo had known this man was hiding in the back, and looking at his calm demeanor, his status must be quite high in this dojo. Yellow level middle stage, a martial artist. But in Yemo's eyes, this meant nothing. Dojo leader. The black-faced man's injuries weren't serious, and seeing this gray-clothed man walk out, he crawled up with a face full of awkwardness. Please excuse the dojo for our impoliteness. I'm the dojo leader of Hong-style 7-kill fist, Shinweiju. May I ask what your name is? The gray-clothed man didn't seem to see the black-faced instructor, and just walked out saying to Yemo, No need for names. I came here today to ask some things, Yemo said plainly, as he really didn't like the style of this dojo leader. When he first came, he was watching from the side. Even after he kicked the guard, he still didn't move. Only when he kicked this black-faced instructor, did he finally walk out. He probably couldn't stay calm any longer. Hearing Yemo's words, Shinweijiu's face changed, but it soon returned to normal. In Jianghu, it was extremely rude to not say your name after one says they have one. Even with Shinweijiu's scheming heart, he almost couldn't take it. But he wasn't a noob who had just entered Jianghu. The angrier he was, the more he would intend on killing the person, yet the kinder he would act. Before understanding who the enemy was, he wouldn't attack easily. Just then, he had also seen Yemo's kicks. He didn't have such power. Although it was easy for him to beat that instructor too, he couldn't do it as comfortably as Yemo, also deciding the direction of his fall. Shinweiju still said with an unflinching face and saluted with his fist. In that case, please come in, friend. Shi Kaijian knew Shinweiju. He was very famous in Chinatown, and was even more famous in the gang world. At this moment, Shi Kaijian saw that Yemo didn't even show any politeness to this man and felt nervous. Usually, those who lived in Jianghu would leave 30% respect when they talked, unless it was a real life and death feud. He didn't know whether Yemo was too young or something, but apparently he didn't care about Shinweiju at all. Of course Yemo didn't care about Shinweiju at all. He hated all this deep scheming yet acting generous. Shinweiju was a mere yellow-level warrior, but so what? Even if he rose 10 levels higher and reached great heaven, Yemo still wouldn't care. Although Shinweiju was extremely mad, he didn't show it at all. He brought Yemo and Shirkaijin into the guest lounge. 4 bulky men stood outside. He thought Yemo was going to say something, but Yemo acted as though he didn't see them at all and just walked in. Shinweiju's plan fell into water. These 4 were the strongest in the dojo. Shinweiju thought that if Yemo was going to say something, he would tell Yemo that that was the rule of the dojo. According to Yemo's personality, there would then be a fight. Shinweiju was sure that with the help of those 4, he would be able to subjugate Yemo. But Yemo just walked straight in. Was he really strong to that extent? Shinweiju felt a little lost. He wouldn't do things he wasn't confident about, so thinking for a long time, Shinweiju ultimately decided to not attack first. He wanted to see what this person was going to ask for. The tea was sent up and Shinweiju smiled, asking, "Friend, what would you like to ask about?" "Dojo leader Shin, my big brother wants to ask Tongzhu some things, but we can't find him at the moment. Can you please tell us where he is?" Shirkaijin asked. Shinweiju frowned. It's not like he didn't know Tongzhu, but Tongzhu's identity was special, and he rarely showed himself in front of the Hong martial gang brothers. Since these 2 came looking in this place, it meant that they knew the Hong-style 7-kill fist dojo was related to Hong martial gang. Thinking about this, Shinweiju saluted with his fist and said apologetically, "Sorry, friend. I know Tongzhu indeed, but he can't see you now. He won't be able to come out and meet you for some time. This concerns an internal matter of Hong martial gang, so please forgive me, friend." Shirkaijin immediately stood up. "What do you mean? I know your Hong martial gang is about to clash with Mountain Gang, but that doesn't mean I can't see Tongzhu." Shinweiju might have some patience for Yemo, but for Shirkaijin, he had none. He had been in a high position for a long time. Since when did a little thing from the streets dare talk to him like this? Shinweiju said coldly to Shirkaijin, "Hong martial gang's business isn't something you can stick your nose in. Fly on grass, although you have some fame in Chinatown, that is nothing in the face of Hong martial gang. Seeing how we're all from China, I'll let it go." Yemo stood up and said plainly, "Shinweiju, I'll give you 1 minute. Take me to see Tongzhu. If not, there will no longer be a Hong martial gang in Chinatown from now on." "How cocky! I, Shinweiju, want to see how you're going to annihilate our Hong martial gang today." Faced with Yemo's aggressive ordering about, Shinweiju finally couldn't take it anymore. Before he could call his men inside, Yemo walked up rapidly, grabbed Shinweiju by the neck and flung him up like a chicken before saying slowly, "You don't get to decide whether I can or cannot annihilate your gang." Shinweiju was shocked inside. He clearly saw Yemo walk up and grab his neck, but he simply couldn't dodge it. He was a yellow-level middle-stage martial artist. He wasn't that mere guard or that black-faced instructor. Yet in this young man's hands he seemed no more than that guard. Shinweiju's face finally changed. He now understood who he had offended. This person might be the legendary Earth-level warrior. If he really was Earth-level, although there would be some difficulty in annihilating the Hong martial gang, it wouldn't be impossible. The 4 men at the door saw what was happening inside and charged in without a second thought. Yemo just raised his leg and kicked. The frontmost bulky man was immediately sent flying. He crashed right into the second man, and the second man crashed into the third until they all stacked together. Shinweiju was frozen. He didn't even dare guess who Yemo was. Funny how he had still been thinking before that the 5 of them could subjugate Yemo and take at least one of his arms or legs. Now, he realized how ridiculous that thought had been. Shinweiju wanted to say some soft submissive words, but his neck was grabbed by Yemo before he could spit out a single word. Shirkaijin rejoiced at the scene. To him, the stronger Yemo was, the more right his decision would seem. Shinweiju had such a great reputation, yet in Yemo's hands, he was like a little chicken, utterly defenseless. Yemo casually tossed him aside and said plainly, "1 minute. Take me to see Tongzhu. Otherwise, next time I say I will annihilate your gang, I won't go back on my words." Cough, cough. Shinweiju managed to catch his breath and quickly stood up. He bowed deeply to Yemo. "Qianbei, I was blind to not see Mount Tai, please forgive me. I'll immediately take Qianbei to see Tongzhu. Please, this way." Then, Shinweiju carefully led the way in front. He no longer had any of those little plans of his. Those schemes had been established based on the idea that their difference in power wasn't too great. Now it was clear that Yemo could squash him like an ant. Hence any shenanigans would be useless. Shinweiju brought Yemo and Shi Kaijin through the back door, and after going left and right a few times, they went into an ancient-styled house. The door was tightly closed. Shinweiju walked to the front and pressed the doorbell. Yemo noticed there was a rhythm to the doorbell pressing. It seemed to be their secret code. Yemo scanned his spirit sense inside. The old house was very spacious and had a patch of grass as well as an artificial lake. It was quite nice to have such a place in a busy city. In a certain underground room, Yemo could see a few guards. When Yemo sent his spirit sense in, he saw 60 people gathered together seemingly discussing something. It was obvious that Shinweiju's alarm frequency gave them a warning. The man holding the meeting just waved his hand and the 60 people went to stand to two sides. Since he was visiting, Yemo wasn't planning on breaking his way in. Soon, someone came to open the door. Shinweiju brought Yemo in. Everyone in the underground basement looked at Yemo and Shi Kaijin with vigilance. No one spoke, but Shi Kaijin was very nervous. He knew that the man at the front only needed to wave, and these tens of people would gang up on them. If it was just a few people, or even a bit more than 10, Shi Kaijin wouldn't be afraid. But if tens of people attacked them together, then no matter how strong Yemo was, he wouldn't be able to deal with all of them. If he was shot sneakily by a bullet, then everything would be over. If it was just a few people, or even a bit more than 10, Shi Kaijin wouldn't be afraid. But if tens of people attacked them together, then no matter how strong Yemo was, he wouldn't be able to deal with all of them. If he was shot sneakily by a bullet, then everything would be over. Furthermore, this was the HQ of Hong Martial Gang. The place was full of masters. There were probably many who were stronger than Shinweiju. Also, who knew if there were hidden traps in this house. Shi Kaijin stood nervously by Yemo's side. Shinweiju just walked to the leader, who was a little skinny, and muttered something. After hearing what Shinweiju said, the man nodded and frowned. Then, he said plainly, "An honorable guest has come. Please have a seat. Someone bring 2 chairs for these 2 friends." Yemo sat down calmly, but Shi Kaijin first glanced uneasily at Yemo, and only then did he also calm down. He had been in this place all these years, living on the brink of death. How could he still be so worried? At the same time, he admired Yemo's courage. "Friend, you have strong will. I'm Xu Hongxing, and as the brothers honor me, I'm the substitute gang leader. May I ask for your name?" The leader man saw Yemo sit down calmly and showed approval in his eyes. From what he saw, Yemo didn't even care about life and death. Although he was sure that Yemo was at least yellow level peak or even black level, he would still die here without doubt. Because he himself was already black level middle stage and surpassed Ping Hanwen of the Chinese gang. Furthermore, he had at least 3 yellow level fighters including Shinweiju. Even if Yemo had black level power, he would be dead for sure. "My surname is Yi. I am sorry for disturbing you. I'm wondering if your honored gang has someone called Tongzhu?" Yemo said monotonously. This Xu Hongxing was quite polite, so he didn't have to be overly oppressive. Even though Yemo didn't say his full name, Xu Hongxing approved of someone like Yemo and didn't mind it too much. Someone who could beat Shinweiju was no ordinary person. He was someone who would go on to do big things, thus his eyesight wasn't on the same level as his henchmen. If he could take this person into the Hong Martial Gang, that would be of big help. He had created the Hong Martial Gang and wasn't a simple person. According to him, Zhu Yuanzhang, the founding emperor of the Ming dynasty, was his ancestor. That's why the gang he had created had strict rules. Although Yemo didn't seem like a very enthusiastic person, he didn't require his henchmen to be enthusiastic. He needed them to be capable and loyal. He believed that this young man would serve him after seeing his power. After all, his only other choice would be death. Tong Zhu, come out! Zhu Hongxing didn't even think and called out to Tong Zhu. A short man stood out from the group and bowed to Zhu Hongxing first before walking to Shi Kaijin and saying, Fei, what's wrong? Zhu Zi, there's nothing wrong. Brother Yi here is my big brother right now, and he has some things he wants to ask you about. Trust me, it's fine, so you can just reply honestly, Shi Kaijin reassured. He admired Yemo a lot right now. Tong Zhu nodded. Obviously, he was quite close to Shi Kaijin. He saluted Yemo with his fist and said, Brother Yi, what's wrong? I'll tell you everything I know. Yemo nodded, putting the bracelet on the table, and asked, You sold this bracelet recently, but where did you get it from? The moment he saw the bracelet, his face changed, but he immediately answered, A year ago, our gang had a clash with the Vietnamese gang. At the time, I hacked a Vietnamese guy apart and robbed this from him. Yemo continued, In that case, do you know any history about this bracelet? Shi Kaijin intervened. Zhu Zi, say everything you can say. Brother, you won't do anything to you. He was afraid his brother would hide something and annoy Yemo. Tong Zhu nodded. I don't know, but we have this certain older brother in the Hong Martial Gang. He was a brother of the Chinese gang before and had a picture of Sister Yen, which he showed to me. Sister Yen had a bracelet, and it was the exact same as the one I got. I wasn't sure, but when I gave it to Fei, I told him this might be Sister Yan's bracelet. So that's it? Yemo nodded and looked around before asking. In that case, who has the picture? Take it out. Zhong Hongxing didn't expect Yemo to start asking about Sister Yen. He looked at the bracelet and wanted to say something but eventually didn't. Yemo didn't ask him, but asked his gang instead. This made him a little uncomfortable, but he wanted to take Yemo in, so he had to resist it. A man in his 50s walked up. He looked very ferocious and approached Zhu Hongxing first, declaring, Gang leader, I have the picture. Zhu Hongxing nodded and said, Luo Xian, our friend Yi has something to ask. Go ahead and answer him. Yes. Luo Xian nodded and walked in front of Yemo. You have Sister Yan's picture? How did you get it? Yemo asked in a normal manner. Luo Xian could also tell Yemo wasn't simple, so he answered carefully. Before gang leader Hanwen was harmed, he told me to go to the photography shop to get this picture for Sister Yen. But by the time I came back, the Chinese gang had already clashed with the Grey Alliance and gang leader had also been harmed by then. I didn't know where Sister Yen had gone, so I kept this photo with me. Could you give me this photo? Yemo stood up and asked. Of course, and since gang leader Hanwen was always good to me, as long as you're related to Sister Yen, I can give you this photo. Luo Xian said. Yemo nodded. Indeed, I am related to Sister Yen. Luo Xian didn't ask what their relationship was and just said, In that case, please wait, and I'll go back to get the photo. Then, Luo Xian asked Zhu Hongxing and got the nod. Afterwards, he turned to leave. After Luo Xian went out, Zhu Hongxing just wanted to speak up when a member of the gang ran in a hurry and informed. Gang leader 3 Breaths Flying Dagger Johnson of Grey Alliance is here with around 30 people. Zhu Hongxing suddenly stood up. Why did he come? What's he doing here? How does he know about this place? His tone was rapid, and he was obviously worried. Yemo shook his head. He saw that this Zhu Hongxing had some temperament yet was unable to keep his cool upon meeting his opponent. And this was his turf. What Yemo didn't know, however, was that 3 Breaths Flying Dagger Johnson was a complete counter to Zhu Hongxing. Although he hadn't cultivated ancient martial arts, his power was strong and no lesser than Zhu Hongxing's. On top of that, he had a specialty, namely the 3 breaths flying dagger. If he wanted to kill someone with a flying dagger, anyone would die within 3 breaths after the shot. Therefore, the people of the Chinatown gangs gave him the title of 3 breaths flying dagger. He stood at the very top in Chinatown, and together with this other black man called Jack, who was also in the Grey Alliance, they were called the Spear-Dagger Duo. Xu Hongxing had no confidence when it came to Johnson. And at their power level, numbers no longer mattered that much. The most important thing was that this HQ was very hidden. Other than the Hung Martial gang members, rarely anyone knew about it. The reason why Xu Hongxing was so polite to Yemo was because Yemo was strong, and because he wanted to recruit him. Otherwise, he wouldn't let Yemo act so cocky in his dojo. If Yemo rejected his offer, he wouldn't be that easy to talk to. Gang leader, we haven't been out these 2 days, and the day after tomorrow we have the clash with Mountain Gang. How could the Grey Alliance know our HQ? An average-looking girl beside Xu Hongxing asked. Xu Hongxing frowned. He thought for a while and shook his head. I don't know either. We'll see after they come in. Although their Grey Alliance is doing well, our gang is no pushover. Yemo heard Xu Hongxing's words and scanned using his spirit sense. 26 men had arrived, each of them very bulky, with the majority of them black, while the minority was white, and a small part of them was Asian. Yemo immediately thought of the 5 black people he had killed and scanned his body just to be sure. Soon Yemo's face turned bad. He didn't expect to be tricked. That big bearded man had stuffed a seed-sized signal source, and he hadn't even realized. No matter how weak they were, he shouldn't have been careless and needed to stay vigilant at all times. Although he didn't fear these people, this still rang an alarm bell for Yemo. He had been too careless recently, and wasn't as cautious as before. Seeing Yemo remove a seed-sized thing from his clothes, Xu Hongxing immediately realized that this young man had offended the Grey Alliance, and had a tracker planned on him. Seeing Yemo remove a seed-sized thing from his clothes, Xu Hongxing immediately realized that this young man had offended the Grey Alliance, and had a tracker planned on him. Xu Hongxing's expression turned very bad. If Johnson weren't here, he would have attacked Yemo already. So it was this guy who exposed his hideout. He no longer wanted to recruit Yemo that much. Although he was capable when it came to fighting, his brain wasn't that agile. Yemo's face wasn't good either. The thing had been small but very sticky. When he chalked the big bearded fella, he didn't realize he was actually calm enough to put a tracker on him. Yemo ripped at it, and the tracker turned to nothing. At this moment, a tall white man walked into the underground room, which wasn't small. Despite there being 60 or so people in here, it didn't seem squishy. When Johnson came in and saw Yemo, he was sure it was him even though the tracker had disappeared. He didn't expect there to be this many people here. Nonetheless, his shocked face quickly went calm. Jordan and those 5 Grey Alliance members were killed by you? Lucian was also killed by you. You also took our things? This Johnson knew how to speak Chinese and was much better at it than that driver. Anyone could see the anger on his face. Yemo smiled. Yes, I killed them. I also burned your crate of cocaine, and I found a case full of cash. Sure, Kaijen hadn't imagined at all that Yemo would also have offended the Grey Alliance. He had never heard about anyone offending the Grey Alliance, and still being able to live. That might have been the case before, but what about now? Just when everyone thought Johnson was going to rampage, Johnson turned to Xu Hongxing and said, Mr. Zhu, he has a death feud with the Grey Alliance. What is his relationship with you? Xu Hongxing immediately wanted to say he wasn't related to Yemo. They were going to fight the Mountain Gang now. He didn't want to offend the Grey Alliance at this critical moment. However, Xu Hongxing was stopped by that average-looking woman. For the first time, this woman spoke of her own accord. This person called Yi is a friend of our gang. If your Grey Alliance wants to attack him on our land, that is the same as mocking us. Even if you have any feud with this friend, please deal with it after leaving our place. Both Xu Hongxing and Yemo were shocked. Yemo imagined that Shu Hongxing would cast away any connections to him, and he could confirm this from Shu Hongxing's expression, but this woman said otherwise. Did she realize something? This woman wasn't simple. No matter whether she had realized anything, Yemo felt that this woman was much more calculating than Zhu Hongxing. It was a no-brainer to say such a thing at this situation. The only result of those words was to make Yemo have some good impression towards them. After all, she didn't say they would protect Yemo. I can agree to not kill him here, but we must take him away. Johnson raised his hand and a flying dagger suddenly appeared in his hand. No one could see where he took it from other than Yemo. No, you can't take him by force. You can only allow him to walk out freely. As for what you do after he walks out, that's up to you. The woman continued. Johnson sneered. Do you think we're scared of your Hong Martial gang? You're a mere woman. Are you the gang leader or something? Gang leader Hong, what is your will? Be straightforward. Zhu Hongxing was troubled. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't agree with her words, but he didn't know how to answer. However, the woman continued. Of course I'm not the gang leader. If I was, I would state that Mr. Yi is someone our gang protects, and that no one can touch him. Hearing this, Zhu Hongxing was shocked. He looked at Yemo, who was still very calm. To be honest, ever since it was discovered that Yemo had been tracked, he had blacklisted Yemo as someone he must kill. He didn't understand why Huang Jing, who had always been very cunning, would make such a huge mistake for someone so young. For the first time, Zhu Hongxing rebuked Huang Zheng's words and said to Johnson, This person has nothing to do with our gang, Johnson. Do as you wish. We won't interfere. This felt like succumbing, but Yemo was someone he was going to kill anyway, so now, he was just letting Johnson do it. Huang Jing stood up and looked deeply at Zhu Hongxing before saying, I'm a bit tired. I want to go rest. Zhu Hongxing thought Huang Jing didn't want to see blood or wasn't too happy because of him rejecting her proposal and didn't mind. He waved his hand. Go take a break, and think before you speak next time. After Huang Jing walked out, Johnson threw around the flying dagger in his hand and spoke in fluent Chinese. A Chinese person taught me how to use this, and it has drunk the blood of countless Chinese. Today, there will be one more. Where is the one who taught you the flying dagger? Yemo asked calmly. Him? Ha ha ha, the first to die to my flying dagger was that guy. Where do you think he went? Perhaps you can meet him before God. Then, Johnson waved his hand and the flying dagger disappeared. No one could see where it was. Yemo caught the flying dagger and spoke coldly. If you hadn't killed the one who taught you, I would have. Luckily, you saved me some trouble. But with your petty moves, you dare play with flying daggers in front of me? Even if Johnson hadn't killed his master, Yemo wouldn't be bored enough to go kill this person, but as someone who couldn't see the character of his disciple, he deserved to die. You! Johnson was dumbfounded. He clearly saw Yemo catch the dagger he just threw out with 2 fingers. Someone could catch his flying dagger with bare hands? His brain couldn't process this reality. His flying dagger was far faster than a bullet. He could even use it to take down bullets, yet today, someone caught his flying daggers with his bare hands. This was unfathomable. Everyone was shocked. Johnson's dagger was definitely faster than a bullet. If someone could catch it, did that mean bullets could no longer threaten that person? Zhu Hongxing's heart skipped a beat. He understood that he had made a mistake today. You have the guts to play with flying daggers, huh? Your daddy will teach you how to properly play with flying daggers today. Look, your father, will pin you to the ground. Protect your left foot. After these words, the flying dagger pierced straight into Johnson's left foot into the ground in a beautiful arc until even the hilt was touching his foot. Argh! Johnson howled and wanted to raise his foot, but he couldn't move it at all. He was really pinned to the ground by a small dagger, not to mention, it was his own dagger. He clearly saw Yemo throw it, but he just couldn't move. Silence. The entire meeting hall was silent. The 3-breath flying sword was pinned to the ground by his own flying dagger. One could read the terror on his face. Zhu Hongxing felt his hands shaking. He was sure that if Emo were to throw that at his throat, he wouldn't be able to dodge it. A few breaths later, Johnson's men finally realized what had happened to their boss and pulled out their guns and swords. Emo sneered and a long sword appeared in his hand. After a round of clattering, Emo charged into this group of people. To be exact, Emo just walked amongst them and walked out. By the time the others had reacted, Emo was already standing at where he had stood before. The long sword disappeared from his hand, and it was as though he never moved. At this moment, everyone started to see the people around Johnson begin to fall and spew out blood. Other than Johnson, everyone from the Grey Alliance who had come were dead. Zhu Hongxing looked at Emo dumbly. If the ground weren't covered in bodies, he would think he'd seen things wrong. Zhu Hongxing looked at Emo dumbly. If the ground weren't covered in bodies, he would think he'd seen things wrong. Zhu Hongxing had seen many masters in his life, and he had even believed he was at the apex, yet now he realized that he hadn't even passed through the doors to mastery. And this young man, he was the real master. Perhaps, he was no longer even merely a master. He wasn't a normal human being. Who could possibly cultivate ancient martial arts to such a degree? A quick stroll, and more than 20 Grey Alliance members died. Such means? Thinking about this, Zhu Hongxing didn't dare let his mind wander anymore. Cold sweat ran down his back. He hadn't come here out of bravery. He had simply never considered them a threat. If this man wanted to annihilate the Hong martial gang, he would at most need to take a stroll between them. Zhu Hongxing's back sweated more and more. It was drenching his clothes, but he lacked the courage to move and could only stare at Emo in shock. He regretted so much that he had rejected Huang Geng's proposal. A chance to be on good terms with his youth. Huang Jing, he didn't listen to her one time and lost out big. Shi Kaizhen looked at the bloody scene. His eyes didn't contain fear but excitement instead. He had made the right decision. Brother Yi was this powerful. He was shaking with excitement, as though his bright future was already here. Yi Qianbei dash. After a long while, Zhu Hongxing stood up shakily. He no longer dared think about recruiting this person. What a joke! Emo looked coldly at Zhu Hongxing and said plainly, "Tell me everything about Sister Yan's disappearance. Do not leave out a word." Just when Zhu Hongxing wanted to speak, Luo Xian rushed in and saw this eerie scene. There were more than 20 bodies on the ground, and an old white man stood stupefied amongst them. He saw his brothers were also in shock, but after noticing that the gang leader seemed to be unharmed, he finally rested easy a bit. Although the scene was bloody, he had been in this industry for 30 years already and seen all sorts of blood and gore. "Johnson?" Luo Xian almost screamed. He didn't expect the one to be standing in the middle of the bloody scene to be one of the spear-sword duo of Grey Alliance. Luo Xian was old and cunning. He looked at Emo, who remained there with an extremely calm demeanor, and immediately guessed the scene was related to Emo. He instantaneously took out the photo and passed it to Emo. "Mr. Yi, this is the photo you asked for." Emo nodded and passed a few stacks of cash. "This is your payment, thank you." "Huh." Luo Xian looked at the stack in shock. There was at least 40 to 50K in there. Emo smiled. "This is what you deserve." "Then, thank you very much, Mr. Yi." Luo Xian accepted the money. He was short on cash anyways. Emo took the photo. On it was a seemingly very quiet and well-educated woman. She was in her 30s, and her brows were like a crescent moon. However, there was a sliver of worry in her brows, making her seem melancholic. Zhu Hongxing could only wait after being interrupted by Luo Xian. Now that Emo put the photo away and looked over, he immediately said, "When the Chinese gang was suddenly attacked by the Grey Alliance and Big Brother Peng was harmed, he sent a brother from the gang to protect Sister Yan before his death. After Sister Yan had disappeared, I found out that that brother had been killed. Ever since, Sister Yan remains nowhere to be seen." Emo scanned the Hong martial gang members and questioned slowly, "Who else knows about what happened before? Come forward." No one came forward. Yemo sighed. It seemed that Sister Yen really wasn't liked in the Chinese gang. If she was, then there wouldn't be no one looking for her. Thinking about this, Yemo no longer wanted to stay here and said to Shirkai-jin, "Let's go." "Brother Yi, where are we going now?" Shirkai-jin quickly asked. "Of course to Grey Alliance. I want to see if that old guy called Jason is dead," Yemo said coldly. Little did Jason know that he and his Grey Alliance had been sentenced to death by Yemo. Yemo reached out his hand, and the dagger that was pinning Johnson appeared in it. Johnson was mobile again, but he no longer had the arrogance of when he had come. He just stared at Yemo with a pale face and was even shaking. He had never seen a real master ever since he'd graduated. The people who everyone thought of as strong had all been killed by him, including his master. But now, he realized how pitiful his view had been. In front of Yemo, he was worse than trash. "Yi Qianbei, Wanbei Johnson wishes to be Qianbei's disciple. I will stay loyal forever and be master's dog," he said, which took everyone by surprise. However, one must say this old white man's Chinese was perfect, yet his face couldn't get any thicker. Other people thought Johnson was shameless, but he didn't think so himself. According to his impression, Chinese loved face, so if you gave them just that, everything would be easy. They would even be able to endure a tougher life in order to give few things. Johnson had studied some Chinese history and knew that there was an emperor in China called Jiangguang. As long as those foreigners called him living for 10,000 of years, he would give them treasures. The emperors after him were also like that. Johnson was sure Yemo would take him in as a disciple, because kneeling down was the most respectful thing one could do for a Chinese. Yemo shook his head. This was the first time he had seen someone as shameless as Johnson. He didn't even spare a second thought and flung out a wind blade. Johnson's hand was sliced off. "I will count to 3. If you don't take me to Grey Alliance, you will lose your second arm," Yemo said coldly and started counting. Johnson froze. Things didn't go as planned. This man didn't care about his respect and couldn't even be bothered to answer. His arm was cut off, but there was little blood flowing out. Before the number 3 had been reached, Johnson crawled up. No, Qianbei, please stop counting. I will bring you over." In his desperation, Johnson used both English and Chinese and quickly went outside. Shirkai-jin said to Tong Shu at the door, "Zhu Zi, if you want to leave with me, I can beg Brother Yi to bring you along." He and Tong Zhu were like blood brothers in Chinatown. Tong Zhu admired Shirkai-jin's luck and saw Yemo's power with his own eyes. Why wouldn't he be willing? He immediately nodded and said, "I am willing." Yemo didn't wait for Shirkai-jin to speak and said, "In that case, let's go." Tong Zhu looked back at Xu Hongxing. Xu Hongxing immediately said, "Since Yi Qianbei has spoken, then go with him." Seeing Yemo and company leave, Xu Hongxing's face immediately went bleak. He didn't expect to meet someone this absurd today. If one day that Yi guy didn't like him, he could be killed at any time. "Big brother, that Yi Qianbei said he would be going to Grey Alliance. Wouldn't that mean the biggest gang in San Francisco is about to disappear? Does this mean the chance for other gangs has arrived?" A henchman immediately saw the situation and grasped the focal point. Xu Hongxing became excited after hearing that. "Yeah, that Yi guy is going to look for trouble at Grey Alliance." Thinking about this, Xu Hongxing immediately ordered, "Notify Huangjing, and tell her there are important things to discuss." A henchman quickly went to get Huangjing, but soon after, he ran back in and spoke worriedly to Xu Hongxing. "Sister Jing is gone. She just took some simple luggage with her and left San Francisco. As for where she's headed, we don't know yet." A henchman quickly went to get Huangjing, but soon after, he ran back in and spoke worriedly to Xu Hongxing. "Sister Jing is gone. She just took some simple luggage with her and left San Francisco. As for where she's headed, we don't know yet." "What? Huangjing left?" Xu Hongxing suddenly stood up and uttered in disbelief. After a long moment, he slumped back down into his chair. "Brother Xing, Sister Jing didn't leave that long ago. If we hurry to the airport, can't we stop her?" some underling asked. Zhu Hongxing shook his head. I know her character. If she wants to leave, then we won't be able to stop her. Sigh, it was really my fault this time. I let a perfect opportunity slip through my fingers. There was one other point that Zhu Hongxing didn't mention. The biggest thing he lost this time wasn't this chance but Huang Deng's support. Never before this moment had he realized how important Huang Jing was to him. This woman looked average, but she had a cunning heart. Now that he thought about it, the reason Hong Martial Gang had its current position today was greatly due to Huang Deng's planning. At the same time, at the conference in Beijing, Ning Qingxue was hesitant faced with her cousin's request. She really didn't want the Ning Family Corporation to join as a subcontractor, but it was her cousin who was asking. Seeing Ning Qingxue's hesitation, Li Mumei said, Brother Yang, I honestly understand what Qingxue is feeling right now. This is really difficult for her. Even I don't want the Ning family business to join as a subcontractor under Feiyu Corporation. Ning Yang nodded and said, Okay, I will relay this to Big Brother. I don't blame Qingxue, they went over the line in the past. They didn't even think about Qingxue's happiness for the rest of her life, sigh. Ning Qingxue nodded. Cousin, if you ever don't like staying in the Ning family, then come to our Feiyu Corporation. There will always be a spot for you here. Seeing Ning Yang leave, Li Mumei looked at the representatives for the Ning Family Corporation and sneered contemptuously. Qingxue, the Ning family shouldn't need to come beg you for a subsidiary position with their ability. They probably sent Ning Yang here to recover your relationship with the Ning family. Ning Qingxue nodded. She could guess that the Ning family had such intentions but didn't see it as clearly as Li Mumei. Mumei, I want to go to Ninghai. Can I leave things here to you and Dad? Ning Qingxue suddenly thought of Yemo, and she wanted to go after Mumei told her what had happened between her and Yemo. However, she got delayed due to the conference. She wanted to go to Ninghai and ask Su Wei and Su Jingwen some questions. Qingxue, you can go. The rest of the procedure is very easy. I can do it with Mumei. Sometimes, it's good to not leave any regrets. Not everything your mom said is correct. Just do what you want to do. Ning Zhongfei walked over. He could feel the changes in his daughter and didn't feel supportive of Lan Yu's words anymore. Ning Qingxue nodded and said, Dad, Xiao Yu said that you are close with Luo Yu's big boss, which is why we got the spot. Do you know their big boss? Ning Zhongfei shook his head with confusion. I don't. If I did, then we would never have been in such a predicament. Uncle, that COU of Luo Yu really said that we were chosen because their big boss ordered it so. How could you not know him? Li Mumei interrupted. Ning Zhongfei was dazed. There was something like that. I don't know their big boss. By the way, did you ask what their big boss's name was? I did, but COU just answered mysteriously that the big boss would come over to our company, so she didn't say. By the way, Qingxue, I feel that COU gives you special treatment. Not like business partners but more like a higher-up. Li Mumei still mentioned the worry in her heart. Ning Zhongfei hummed for a moment and nodded. Mumei holds some reason to her words. Qingxue has such beauty, it's normal for people to like her, but since it's already done, why did the big boss use my name? Could it be him? No, he's too young. Dad, who are you talking about? Ning Qingxue immediately asked. Ning Zhongfei replied, It's the young man I met yesterday. I gave him a bracelet too. Mumei said he was a fraud, and I haven't seen him here indeed. I also thought he must have been a fraud, but other than him, I don't think there's anyone else to suspect. Uncle, did that person also say he had a pharmaceutical company? Li Mumei asked. Ning Zhongfei nodded. He said that the bracelet was related to him, hence I gave it to him. Then, he invited me to coffee and said he was going to the conference looking for partners. Hold on. Li Mumei interrupted. What's wrong? Ning Zhongfei asked in confusion. Uncle, repeat that last bit you just said, Li Mumei suddenly said. Ning Zhongfei repeated. He said that he was also coming for the conference looking for partners and was encouraging me to go as well, and he said he knew yes, that part. In the morning, I thought Uncle said it wrong or that the guy was bullshitting. But now, it seems that he is the big boss of Luoyu. People came to the conference to become partnered, yet he came to the conference to look for partners. Doesn't this mean he represents Luoyu? Li Mumei said. Yeah, I had been wondering as well. Why would he make a wording error like that? So he was the big boss of Luoyu. He's so young. Mumei said he was a fraud, and I was a bit doubtful. He didn't seem like a fraud. I'm really honored to have met him. Ning Zhongfei was full of happiness. Ning Qingxue shook her head and said, Dad, I don't feel this is right. You just met that young man and gave him a bracelet thanking him for the encouragement. But he's the big boss of a company. How can he give you the partnership over something like that? A successful big boss of an entrepreneurship shouldn't mix private with professional. Li Mumei nodded. This is also what I want to say. Qingxue, you need to be careful, it might have something to do with you. Ning Zhongfei said slowly. No matter what, if Qingxue is going to be harmed, I would rather not have this spot. Ning Qingxue said. Let's not talk about that. Everything will show in time. Louis Fei is about to come to our company. Mumei, just ask her more questions. I want to go to Ninghai once, but I may be back soon. Ning Qingxue wanted to know why she had loved Yemo as much as Li Mumei put it. It felt unbelievable to her, but she knew that Li Mumei wouldn't lie to her. Also, if what Li Mumei said was false, her mother wouldn't try to stop her from remembering the past so much. Although hearing about it seemed absurd, in the depth of her heart, she actually felt like Li Mumei was right. Li Mumei said that Yemo had changed from that waste of a human being. Ning Qingxue investigated a bit, and that house in Ninghai did indeed belong to her. Just as Li Mumei said, she had bought this house after marrying Yemo. Coming back to the house in Ninghai, Ning Qingxue took out the keys Li Mumei gave her and opened the door. The backyard looked barren and not taken care of. All the flowers in the pot had died and only a small stalk of grass still stood in the middle with a bent stem as though clinging to life. When Ning Qingxue saw the grass, she felt her heart ache again. Qingxue felt lost. She went near the flower pot. She subconsciously wanted to pat the almost dead grass and suddenly felt some joy as though that grass was recounting past happenings to her. The middle of the grass was silver, but there appeared to be a small mark of blood on it. Ning Qingxue's first impression of this grass was that it was surprisingly spiritual. She had been feeling true joy ever since seeing that grass. It sounded very absurd, but it was really happening. Ning Qingxue's first impression of this grass was that it was surprisingly spiritual. She had been feeling true joy ever since seeing that grass. It sounded very absurd, but it was really happening. This was just a normal silver heart grass. Although it was a spirit herb, it shouldn't be able to create resonance. What Ning Qingxue didn't know was that it was different from the normal silver heart grass. It had been washed with her blood when absorbing spirit qi. Even now, there was still a red line visible in the middle of the grass. Ning Qingxue took the water she had been drinking and watered the grass. The grass seemed to have gotten some life force. Ning Qingxue stood up and went inside. The eastern room was half closed as though someone had been there before. Ning Qingxue walked into the room. It was very tidy, but there was some dust on the tea table. The most conspicuous thing was the small medical case on the bedstand. Ning Qingxue walked over and opened the medical case. There were some receipts inside, some bottles and a packet of silver needles, as well as some spare change. It also contained Yemo's identity and bank card. The things inside were very strange, making Ning Qingxue frown in confusion. Mumei said that this case had been very important to her. Was it because of these things? She closed the case and walked out of the room. It seemed that Su Wei had moved away already. This was the first time Ning Qingxue was actively trying to remember things. She cleaned the house and was prepared to stay here. From Mumei's words, it would seem the memories she lost were very important to her. Without anything concerning the company to worry about, Ning Qingxue seemed to have found tranquility living by herself in Ninghai. She suddenly felt like this was the life she wanted. Today was the second day Ning Qingxue was living here. At this moment, she was standing by the flower pot, watering the silver heart grass, when a knock was heard. Ning Qingxue opened the door, and a very clean and nice-looking woman stood by the door. She seemed to have seen this woman before but couldn't remember who she was. "Qingxue, you're back! I thought it was Yemo." Su Jinwen looked at Ning Qingxue with joy and surprise. She had to say, this Ning Qingxue was getting more and more beautiful. Her unique temperament wasn't something that could be learnt. "You are?" Ning Qingxue still couldn't remember who Su Jinwen was. Such an excellent girl, she should have some impression at least if she did know her. Was she part of her lost memories? Su Jinwen just remembered what Li Mumei had told her, and couldn't help but feel bad. She knew Ning Qingxue had lost some memories, and she happened to be a part of them. "Qingxue, I'm Su Jinwen." Su Jinwen was thinking of some way for Ning Qingxue to remember her. She came to see if Yemo had come back but didn't expect to see Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue smiled apologetically. "Sorry, Jinwen. I lost some memories, but Mumei has mentioned you. Come in." On the stone table in the backyard, Ning Qingxue made some tea for Su Jinwen and said, "Jinwen, you know about what happened to me, right? Mumei probably told you. I wanted to come see Su Wei, but she has left already. I was planning to go find you too, because I wished to retrieve those lost memories but have no way to do so." Ning Qingxue's tone seemed very bland, but Su Jinwen could make out something more, perhaps a little anxiety. "Do you want to ask me about you and Yemo?" Su Jinwen asked. Ning Qingxue nodded. I heard Mumei say that you're friends with Yemo, so." Su Jinwen looked down and spoke slowly. "Although I think of him as a friend, we don't actually see each other that much. Anyway, it was my birthday back then and Mumei and you were there. I had also invited Yemo, and from Mumei I heard that that was the first time you guys met each other." Su Jinwen told everything she knew about Yemo and Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue listened to all of this and looked at Su Jinwen in shock. If it weren't because Su Jinwen looked like an honest person, she would have thought these words were all lies. According to her, not only had there been a necklace that could protect her but also charms that could shoot fireballs. She had even asked Su Jinwen how to use them once and gone out looking for Yemo by herself. Su Jinwen said that she had been putting her life on the line that time. "You're saying that your bracelet was given to you by Yemo through me, and it also has defensive properties. This. Ning Qingxue looked speechlessly at the pretty bracelet in Su Jinwen's hands. She did find it very pretty, but she really didn't dare believe that. Su Jinwen nodded and said, "Yes, every word I have said was true." Ning Qingxue rubbed her head. Su Jinwen looked up at the flower pot and suddenly said, "The last time when Yemo came, he also sat in front of that grass for a long time." Ning Qingxue didn't really understand Su Jinwen's words and didn't know where to begin asking. "My mother had been lying on a bed as a vegetable for a few years, and it was his spirit-cleansing charm that saved her. At the time, the person I was thankful to the most was him, but I didn't know he was Yemo. Later on, I realized that he was the charm master. On my birthday, he gave me this most precious gift, but I didn't cherish it properly. Now there are only 2 beads left on it," Su Jinwen said as if to herself. Then, she looked up at Ning Qingxue and continued, "I came here today to see if Yemo had returned. Seeing you was a surprise. There's no need for you to doubt my words. Try hitting my wrist with a stick." Ning Qingxue subconsciously took a stick and knocked it lightly at Su Jinwen's wrist, asking hesitantly, "I knocked it, but there seems to be no effect?" Su Jinwen also looked at the bracelet in confusion, thinking it was impossible. The other time, the coarse bracelet Yemo gave her had defensive abilities, so how could this exquisite one not have any? Looking at Ning Qingxue's increasingly suspicious gaze, Su Jinwen bit her teeth and said, "You have to use force, perhaps only then would there be an effect." Ning Qingxue shook her head and put down the stick. "No matter what, I'm grateful to you, but I'd rather not try. If I use force, your wrist will break." Su Jingwen saw that Ning Qingxue was doubting her words and didn't even think before using the stick to smash down on her wrist. She didn't believe the bracelet Emo gave her could be fake. Because Ning Qingxue was the one to bring it to her, she hadn't worn it, but after meeting Emo with him telling her to wear it, how could it be fake? If it was, then she would be too disappointed in Emo. He should at least tell her. It was because she didn't believe Emo would trick her that she masochistically smashed her wrist. She had this unexplainable sense of certainty. She believed in this feeling and at the same time trusted Emo. It was because she had been hesitant last time that she had given 3 beads to Ning Qingxue. It was then that she made up her mind not to completely believe what others say. She had to do things based on her own feelings and perception. If she believed that Emo wouldn't lie to her, then she should smash down on her wrist. Ah! Ning Qingxue screamed. She didn't expect Su Jingwen to be this cruel to herself. She couldn't even stop her. The stick didn't hit Su Jingwen like Ning Qingxue expected, instead bouncing off and flying away into the distance from Su Jingwen's hand. Ning Qingxue looked at Su Jingwen's wrist in shock. It was perfect. She was sure that Su Jingwen wasn't faking things because she really saw a white light from the bracelet instantly flick the stick away. It's real. After a long while, Ning Qingxue sighed. Su Jingwen looked at the wooden stick and said slowly, I knew he wouldn't trick me. Hearing Su Jingwen's words, Ning Qingxue felt a somewhat strange feeling that she couldn't explain. She admired Su Jingwen's bracelet. I didn't think such magical artifacts really existed. I thought those magic artifact shops were fake. Su Jingwen shook her head and said, You're correct. Even though those shops aren't completely fake, they wouldn't have bracelets like mine. Only he in this entire world can make this, no one else. Then Su Jingwen looked a little dejectedly at Ning Qingxue and continued, You don't need to envy me. The best defensive artifact is on you. It's the necklace you're wearing at the moment. What? You're saying this necklace of mine is a defensive artifact? Ning Qingxue pulled out the necklace and asked in surprise. What? You're saying this necklace of mine is a defensive artifact? Ning Qingxue pulled out the necklace and asked in shock. What? You're saying this necklace of mine is a defensive artifact? Ning Qingxue pulled out the necklace and asked in shock. Su Jingwen nodded. Perhaps it's not only a defensive magical artifact but also capable of calming your mind like my bracelet. I don't even get colds anymore. I think seeing how Emo loves you so much, something he gave you wouldn't be ordinary. You're saying that Emo gave me my necklace? Ning Qingxue finally understood where her necklace came from, but this only made her more confused. Master Wu Guang said that a qianbei of his had made this. Wu Guang was in his 70s. How could his qianbei be Emo? Su Jingwen sunk into silence. She knew that Ning Qingxue had lost part of her memories. But don't people usually retain their most important memories? How come she didn't have any impression of Emo at all? Although she didn't like how Ning Qingxue had forgotten everything, Su Jingwen still replied, seeing Ning Qingxue stare at her. Yes, you yourself said it, and I knew that Emo cared about you a lot from your own words at the time, so… Ning Qingxue suddenly stood up. She walked in front of the wooden stick and gave it to Su Jingwen, ordering, Jingwen, hit my face. Su Jingwen took the stick and shook her head. Qingxue, you don't understand what a defensive artifact is. Even though you wear it on your neck, it wouldn't just protect your upper body. Okay, whatever, just hit me. Ning Qingxue nodded. She still didn't understand why she was doing this. Perhaps she didn't want Su Jingwen to beat her in trust. Su Jingwen took the stick without hesitation and smacked towards Ning Qingxue's arm. Before it could touch Ning Qingxue's arm, it was blocked by a veil of light which flicked away the wooden stick. It's true. Ning Qingxue caressed her necklace, and everything seemed to have been explained. When she just woke up, the necklace was a bit faint in color, and it took some time for it to recover its gloss. This meant the necklace could self-repair. Then, according to Li Mumei, the reason she didn't get injured seriously after the car crash was this necklace. She wondered if it was due to the necklace that she managed to wake up. Su Jinwen looked at Ning Qingxue, who was in shock and felt a little down. Although there was only her and Ning Qingxue here, she felt like she was redundant. She stood up and said, "Qingxue, I'll be going back." "Huh!" Ning Qingxue came back to reality and quickly said, "Thank you, Jinwen. How about I treat you to dinner tonight?" Su Jinwen shook her head. "Don't worry about it, maybe next time. I'm a bit tired today." Ning Qingxue nodded. "Okay, come visit often. Sometimes it gets really boring living here by myself. I really admire your courage smacking down on your arm like that." Su Jinwen smiled. "Okay, I'll come by frequently." After which, Su Jinwen walked to the door, yet she suddenly turned around. "In fact, it doesn't really have anything to do with courage. I trust him, that's why I did it." Su Jinwen was long gone when Ning Qingxue was still standing in the yard. The last words Su Jinwen had uttered kept ringing in her mind. Ning Qingxue murmured, "All right, I'd really like to know what sort of person you would be in my mind if I hadn't lost my memories. Could a mere month really change the impression I had built up of you over the course of many years? How come I didn't divorce you after having finished using you? How could I disregard my own life to look for you? Would such love happen to me?" Before Ning Qingxue could close the door, another girl came from outside, and she looked no less pretty than Su Jinwen. Ning Qingxue looked at the girl and felt very strange. Did she come for Yemo as well? Why were all these people who looked for Yemo women, beautiful women at that? "Who are you?" Tang Beiwei and Ning Qingxue asked the exact same questions simultaneously. Tang Beiwei had been waiting for her brother at Serenity for more than half a year, but Yemo still wasn't back. She missed her brother. After all, he was all she had left in this world. Thus she came to find Yemo. But when she revisited this small house in Ninghai, there was no Su Wei nor her brother. She instead saw an absurdly gorgeous woman who was even prettier than her. This made Tang Beiwei confused. "I'm Ning Qingxue. Who are you looking for?" Ning Qingxue broke the silence. Tang Beiwei smiled. "Oh, it's sister-in-law Qingxue. I am Tang Beiwei. Yemo is my brother." "Oh, then come in and take a seat." This girl proclaimed she was the sister of Yemo but wasn't surnamed Yi. She knew about Yiling, but she had never heard that Yemo had another sister. After knowing that Su Wei moved away, Tang Beiwei was disappointed. Still, in order to wait for her brother to come back, she chose to live here for the time being. Ning Qingxue didn't ask why Tang Beiwei called Yemo brother. Sometimes things shouldn't be asked. She was sure Tang Beiwei wasn't Yemo's sister. Why make things awkward? She didn't feel that to the bone love for Yemo, so no matter how many pretty women came looking for Yemo, she would only be surprised and not angry. The both of them didn't talk much, and it became apparent that there was nothing to be said after a few sentences. Tang Beiwei realized a little while later that this sister-in-law Qingxue knew almost nothing about her brother. She felt like her brother deserved more than that. Although she knew what had happened to Qingxue from her brother, how could she forget him so completely? This meant that she was a heartless woman. She wouldn't let someone like that marry her brother no matter what. Johnson brought Yemo to the door of Hong Martial Gang. Yemo looked back at Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu and said, "You two don't need to come, just wait for me at Mingyu Tower. I'll be back soon." Johnson brought Yemo to the door of Hong Martial Gang. Yemo looked back at Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu and said, "You two don't need to come, just wait for me at Mingyu Tower. I'll be back soon." Johnson looked at the 8 cars parked outside. Only he had come back out, with a lost arm at that. He had a feeling that as soon as he brings this Chinese guy to the Grey Aliens, he wouldn't be far from death. But he knew that if he didn't, he would die now. He didn't harbor any hopes for someone to save him from this demon. Seeing Johnson doubt, Yemo said coldly, "If you hesitate for another second, I will make you disappear immediately. I don't believe that I won't find anyone to bring me to your nest. And no, I'll drive now." Johnson didn't think of it as just a threat at all. He knew Yemo would really kill him. Although with only one hand, Johnson drove very quickly. An hour later, the car was parked outside a private manor. Yemo didn't need to go in to notice that the HQ of Grey Alliance was much more pompous than Hong Martial Gang's. Even though his spirit sense had a radius of 200 meters, he could still only see but a corner of this manor. Yemo retrieved his spirit sense and noticed that the door was open. A small black waiter ran over and bowed to them, speaking English. "Qianbei, Jason is waiting for you. He will lead the way." Johnson knew that Yemo didn't understand, so he quickly translated. Yemo considered something and sneered. That Zhu Hongxing had big dreams but little wisdom. Yemo had launched a massacre in Hong Martial Gang, and the only survivor was in his hands. Nevertheless, the Grey Alliance immediately knew. There was no way there was no traitor amongst the gang members. Hong Martial Gang would be gone under his leadership sooner or later. Walking in, Yemo realized what it meant to be grandiose. For instance, there was a huge swimming pool. In fact, there were multiple of them. There were also bamboo patches and a football field, as well as a golf course. America was a magical place. A mob boss could have such wealth and even live so comfortably. Witnessing this place, Yemo couldn't help but admire America's way. Private property must be respected. Jason had been in the mafia for so long, there was no way the US government had no evidence of his crimes. Since he was still living freely, it meant he had his ways. The three of them walked a few hundred meters further, and an oval-shaped building became visible. Yemo sent his spirit sense in. The oval building resembled a gymnasium yet was much smaller. The inside was intriguingly decorated. It looked like the bottom of a frying pan, and there were only seats at 20 meters and above. There was a slanted surface for around 20 or so meters. This surface was made of smooth metal and even seemed to be flickering with electricity. Yemo could imagine it already. They wanted him to go in and be captured immediately. Such an evil method, even great heaven masters wouldn't be able to escape. Yemo suspected that it was completely metal and that as soon as you stood on it, they would electrocute you. Nearby, there were a few cages. Other than a lion, they also contained 2 leopards and a tiger. Yemo was sure that this building hadn't been built just for him. He didn't know why Jason had such a construct, but since he had come already, he wouldn't fear it now. Not to mention, he was Chi gathering stage 4 now. He wouldn't be scared of a mere electric house. Yemo scanned his spirit sense, and the flying sword appeared beneath his feet, carrying Yemo into the house while he was followed by Johnson. As soon as they went inside, the big door leading to the outside rumbled as it fell down to the ground and shut the entrance. The thing was, Yemo had already noticed that when Johnson first came in, he was nervous and seemed to be waiting for something. As expected, as soon as Johnson had entered, he rushed to one corner of the construct and started slamming his foot there. Yemo watched on coldly. He figured there must be some sort of trap mechanism that could save Johnson. However, he stepped on it for a long time, yet there was no reaction. Johnson had portrayed a sliver of hope on his face before, but it immediately turned into fear as he yelled. "John, you bring our enemies to our door and even lost your throwing arm for the flying knives. Did you really think you'd still get to live?" A cold voice sounded from the top. Yemo scanned this person right away. The voice's owner was in his 60s, but apparently he kept his look very well as he looked less than 50. Yemo knew this person had to be Jason. Jason's Chinese was far less fluent than Johnson's. He looked expressionlessly at Yemo and spoke. "They say you're very strong. I heard those 20 people couldn't even last a few minutes in your hands, so today, I'll dedicate my gladiator pan for you to have a taste." Jason's pronunciation was pretty inaccurate, but Yemo could guess what he meant. Jason clearly also knew his Chinese was bad, hence he ordered the short man beside him. "Explain it to Mr. Yi." That short man quickly informed. "This construct is meant for people we don't like in order to fight beasts. You will be fighting beasts in the cage soon. Only by killing them can you live a little longer. We'll be watching until you die. You might be very strong, but no one dares to fight me. Those who have are all dead, regardless of who they were or what their status was." Jason's tone was very confident. Jason then looked at Emo and shook his head. "You Chinese are too full of yourselves. You actually came to my place all by yourself. That Zhu Hongxing is the same. He doesn't know that it would only take a few moments for me to destroy him. I even know how many women he sleeps with each night. He's a far cry from Peng Hanwen from all those years ago. And even Peng Hanwen I annihilated without using my full power." Yemo's face remained calmness itself. After Jason was done, he asked plainly, "Why did you destroy the Chinese gang before? Also, do you know where Sister Yan is at?" Jason laughed. "You have a lot of questions for someone who's about to die, but I like your personality. Me starting a war with another gang over a woman, Peng Hanwen's brain must be dead to think that. As for that Sister Yan, I'll tell you. I just saw her profile from afar. I never knew how she looked, and I still don't know." Then Jason spoke contemptuously to Emo. "Okay, the game begins now." As expected, Emo knew his guess would be right. Jason didn't start a war with the Chinese gang over Sister Yan. It was for some other reason. Perhaps he wanted to consume the Chinese gang. Yemo's spirit sense scanned the short man's face and saw him have a strange expression. Something like regret and longing. Yemo thought and asked again. "Before the game starts, I have another question to ask." Jason took out a remote controller and pointed at Yemo. "Seeing how you're about to give me a fascinating show, I'll allow you to ask one more question." "Okay, who is the guy helping you translate?" Yemo pointed at the short man. Jason laughingly answered, "My advisor. He came from the Chinese gang." "Serene, you must be that guy who betrayed the Chinese gang before, right?" Yemo's tone was full of killing intent. Serene's face changed. Although some people had guessed before that he was the person who had betrayed the Chinese gang, those people were dead now. Besides, he'd been staying inside and keeping a low profile recently. Even then, this Yi guy could guess his identity? Jason laughed bleakly and pressed down on the controller. A few of the metal cages opened and the starved lion, leopard and tiger rushed out, charging towards Emo and Johnson. Jason laughed bleakly and pressed down on the controller. A few of the metal cages opened and the starved lion, leopard and tiger rushed out, charging towards Emo and Johnson. Jason saw Emo whip the leopard away with one kick and yelled, "Open fire and break that Chinese man's leg!" Around 100 people fired simultaneously, all focusing on the same spot. There were sparks all over, yet Emo was nowhere to be seen. At this moment, Emo jumped up to where the people were standing and incapacitated their meridians with rapid speed before throwing them down below. Emo was very fast. After running one circle, he had thrown the 100 or so people down onto the fighting ring. Only then did Jason react. He immediately realized that this Yi guy was far more powerful than he had expected. This gladiator ring couldn't trap him at all. Howls of pain sounded in the gladiator ring mixed with the roaring of beasts, making people shiver. The only thought in Jason's head was to leave this place as soon as possible. Serene was faster than him, but as soon as the two stood up, they saw Emo standing in front of them. "Mr. Yi." Jason wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. The reason he could live so well until today was because he never exposed himself to danger. Today, however, even though he thought he had prepared for everything, he had miscalculated. This man has exceeded the limits of humans. Who could jump 20 meters high and throw his men into the gladiator ring in such a short time? If he got another chance, he would rather abandon his beautiful manor and leave as far as he could, rather than face Emo. This person wasn't a human, he was the devil. "You are Jason?" Emo looked at this man who had reigned over San Francisco all these years. He didn't expect he would be so scared facing death head-on. Yes, good sir. I have a lot of money, I'll give it all to you, as long as you have mercy on me." "Oh, where is your money?" Emo asked candidly. If there was a lot of cash, he didn't mind taking some, He was short on money anyway. Jason saw that Yemo was interested in his money and immediately became excited. He ordered Soren hurriedly. Quickly explain to Mr. Yi. Soren raised his pale face and said slowly, Jason's money is all in stocks. He owns 6 companies and 5 shopping malls. These things can't be turned into money straight away. They need to be sold. But if Jason suddenly sells these things, the FBI will investigate. This way, not only would you not get the money, but it will also cause you trouble. Soren, why are you putting it like that? Jason could tell that Soren wasn't helping him talk and was instead saying that his money couldn't be taken now. If it couldn't, what use was he then? Yemo looked at Jason and questioned. In other words, you have no money right now? I do. I still have 50 million in my bank account. Jason no longer dared let Soren help him translate. Yemo took out his card and gave it to Jason. Transfer all your money to me as fast as possible. Otherwise, you'll see I don't have much patience. Okay, but after I do that? Jason asked hesitantly. As long as Yemo agreed to let him go, he would do anything. Yemo declared coldly. Don't challenge my patience. I don't have so much time that I can wait for you. If you don't want to, fine by me. I'll just toss you down. I'll do it. Jason didn't dare say anything more. He took out his phone and started making transactions. Just looking at the bloodbath down there shook his mind. Those gang members couldn't crawl up and were being torn apart by the beasts. Soren looked at Jason, who was rushing to make the transaction. There was ridicule on his pale face. He knew that even if Jason made the transaction, Yemo wouldn't let him go. He could already see the sharp killing intent in Yemo's eyes. But in the depth of his heart, he was also shocked. He had witnessed many masters, but it was the first time he met someone of Yemo's caliber. He saw with his own eyes how Yemo flew up. That moment, he at first thought he had seen wrongly. If it had been someone else, he would have thought of many ways to run, but in front of Yemo, he felt helpless. This young man was too scary. He could tell he was the traitor of the Chinese gang from tens of meters away. It is done. Jason handed the card back to Yemo in a fawning manner. Yemo took the card and said to Jason, Since it's done, you can go down now. No, how can you not dash? Jason was kicked down amidst the bloody bodies by Yemo. He still couldn't understand even at the moment of his death. Johnson had told him about the character of Chinese, and being in contact with Chinese people all these years it had been confirmed indeed. Usually, as long as he appeared subdued and respectful to Chinese people, they would be soft. And when he gave them everything he could, they would let him go. But the reality now was exactly the opposite. He only had one thought of regret. Why on earth did he build this gladiator ring? He never would have thought that he would be fighting the beasts in here one day, being the owner of the ring. Soren lacked the resolve to look at the bloody scene and tried his best to think of a way to live. Yemo looked plainly at him and said, You're a smart guy. Tell me how you betrayed the Chinese gang and where Sister Yen is. Soren shuddered and hesitated for a long time. I just want to live. Yemo uttered frigidly. You don't have the right to argue with me. I can make you talk even if you don't want to. You're worth less than an ant in my eyes. You are the Yemo who annihilated Earth Fiend, aren't you? Soren suddenly asked something completely irrelevant. Yemo said plainly, I am. You're indeed clever and even know about this. But even so, what of it? So it's you indeed. I should have known earlier. I'm such an idiot, such an idiot. Soren murmured for a long time and still didn't reply to Yemo's question. Yemo sneered. Since you don't want to talk, then don't blame me. Hold up. Soren suddenly raised his hand calmly. Seeing Yemo wait, Soren started talking. The moment I lay my eyes on Sister Yen, I realized that she was the woman of my dreams. So, I joined the Chinese gang without further thought. For more than 10 years, I did everything for the Chinese gang without hesitation, all for Sister Yen. If things had just continued like that, perhaps nothing would have happened. But one day, I really couldn't bear with the longing for her. I confessed to her. Soren stopped as though reminiscing on past memories, then he shook his head before continuing. What I hadn't expected, however, was that the gang leader Peng Hanwen would hear it. He used the 3 knives and 6 holes torture on me without hesitation, saying that I shouldn't have dared harass Sister Yen. I knew that Sister Yen was the gang leader's goddess. No one was allowed to get close to her. Having said that much, Soren pulled up his pants to show 6 scars on his leg. That torture made me lose all hope for the Chinese gang. I betrayed the gang and sided with the Grey Alliance, helping them scheme. My only demand was for Jason to give Sister Yen to me. There was longing and a sliver of madness in Soren's eyes. But afterwards I couldn't find Sister Yen. I don't know where she went. Although I suspect that Sister Yen was killed by Jason, I have no evidence at all. Ever since, I've been living my life in pain. Not because I betrayed the Chinese gang, but because I brought harm to Sister Yen. Then, he went silent. What reason could Jason have to kill Sister Yen? Yemo asked. Soren answered dejectedly. I suspect Jason wanted me to settle and scheme for the Grey Alliance without any distraction. Of course, this is only my guess. Yemo looked coldly at Soren. Since you can't provide better info, you can go down and accompany your boss. Thus, Yemo grabbed Soren and was going to fling him down. Soren quickly screamed. Yemo, you can't kill me, dash. Yemo looked coldly at Soren. Why can't I kill you? Yemo looked coldly at Soren. Why can't I kill you? Soren quickly said. Your mother-in-law is in my hands now. If you kill me, your mother-in-law will be dead for sure. Yemo frowned. Although he was sure that there couldn't be such a coincidence, Ning Zhongfei did indeed come to San Francisco a few days ago. What if this was true? He let Soren down and asked coldly. Where is she? I can tell you right away, but you have to ensure my safety. Soren said without hesitation. He knew this was his only chance at staying alive. Then there's no need. Yemo pointed at Soren's forehead. He wouldn't negotiate with someone like that. There were too many ways to make him tell the truth. Soren seemed as if he'd lost focus as Yemo interrogated. Tell me everything you know about my mother-in-law. Soren answered expressionlessly. Ning Zhongfei and Lan Yu represented Fei Yu Corporation wanting to cooperate with CKG Corporation in the US. I have a friend at CKG and thus knew about it. Your name in China was just too big, so I started to investigate you, but before I could finish you came. But I do know that Ning Qingxue is your wife and hence that Lan Yu is your mother-in-law. Yemo frowned. Where is Lan Yu now? Soren replied. I don't know. I just heard that they already left CGK. I don't know anything about her, I just said that to save my life. Then in that case, get the fuck down there. Yemo threw Soren down. He couldn't help but applaud this shorty for his quick thinking. Soren woke up in the middle of the air. Facing the bloody scene, there was a look of desperation in his eyes. Yemo scanned with his spirit sense. All of the gang members here had been killed. The rest were some servants. It didn't matter if they lived. He had earned big this time. He annihilated the Grey Alliance, and earned a big load of cash. Even if there were still some remaining members of the Grey Alliance, they wouldn't be able to cause much trouble. Besides, with all the people the Grey Alliance had offended all these years, perhaps as soon as after his departure, they would come looking for vengeance. Even that Jew guy from Hong Marshall gang would come, much less other people. Yemo shot tens of fireballs down below, and turned this gladiator ring into a sea of fire before leaving. It seemed that if he wanted to find Sister Yen, he would have to pay a visit to the Vietnamese gang who had found the bracelet. But that guy who got the bracelet had already been killed by Tong Zhu. That was one lead less. Although he was sure that Lan Yu would be okay, she was still his mother-in-law. Since she was still in San Francisco and was tracked by Soren, he should go find out her whereabouts. Gang activity had been quite prevalent recently in these areas. It wouldn't be good if she fell in their hands. Although this probability was small, What's wrong with checking it out for safety's sake? When Emo returned to Mingyu Tower, Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu were worriedly waiting. Although Emo hadn't left that long with Johnson, the Grey Alliance have made a name for themselves in Chinatown that they weren't to be messed with. If something happened to their new big brother, they would be gone for sure. Seeing Emo come in, they finally felt relieved. Old He knew that Shi Kaijin followed Emo now and thus also showed respect to Emo. At the top floor, Emo called Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu over and asked, "The Grey Alliance is over, you don't need to worry about it. Now I want to ask, do you know about a business called CGK, a pharmaceutical corporation?" Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu knew that since Emo came back, it meant that Grey Alliance was a thing of the past, but they were still shocked when they heard it really was so. Shi Kaijin replied, "Yes, I know this company. It's a moderately sized pharmaceutical company in San Francisco. Their main activity is at the eastern suburbs, but their office building is in the most developed inner city." Emo nodded and said, "Someone I know called Lan Yu was doing business negotiations with them not long ago and didn't seem to make any progress. Go and see where she is now. You only need to find out where she is, no need to startle her." After that, Emo walked into the busy Chinatown streets again. Almost all the TVs and bars and entertainment centers were playing the news about a UFO invading the States. All the citizens of America had to be vigilant. If they were to find any relevant information, they should call the police. He had only been walking around for 1 hour when Shi Kaijin called saying that he needed to report in, and was waiting for him at Mingyu Tower. When Emo came back, both Shi Kaijin and Tong Zhu had returned. Furthermore, they had brought 2 people. One was a Chinese less than 30 years old, his eyes full of spirit and ferocity, with a faint killing chi on him. One could easily see he was no simple character, however his power was a bit low, only yellow-level primary stage at most. The other was a white man of medium build, his eyes looking around very rapidly. Yet what was different about him was that he was tied up. "Brother Yi, this is the leader of the Tang gang, Wen Yueji. He heard that Big Brother was looking for Lan Yu and tied up Fred here, bringing him over," Shi Kaijin quickly explained. Emo looked at Wen Yueji in confusion. He was looking for news of Lan Yu. Why did this guy deliver a tied-up foreigner to him? Wen Yueji saw Emo look over and quickly bowed with his fist. "Yi Qianbei, I've heard of your big name but hadn't been fortunate enough to see you until today. Now that I got this chance to meet Qianbei, please allow me to follow you like Shi Kaijin." Emo frowned. "I won't be staying here, why would you follow me?" Peng Yueji immediately explained. "Qianbei, Fred is CGK's main representative in their negotiation with Fei Yu Corporation. If something happened to Lan Yu, it must be due to him, so I tied him up." Peng Yueji immediately explained. "Qianbei, Fred is CGK's main representative in their negotiation with Fei Yu Corporation. If something happened to Lan Yu, it must be due to him, so I tied him up." Emo was almost speechless. "Who said something happened to Lan Yu? I just wanted to figure out where she was at the moment. I never said anything happened to her." Peng Yueji saw that he had misunderstood Emo and was greatly worried. He said, "Yi Qianbei, Fred is the most infamous human trafficker in San Francisco. He looks glamorous on the outside, sales manager of a big company, but secretly he commits all sorts of crimes. Normal people don't know about these things, but in the Mafia everyone knows about it. Because Soren of Grey Alliance was his supporting pillar, he still roams free." Emo suddenly realized something. So this was the friend Soren had in CGK he was talking about. Had he really dared do something to Lan Yu? Thinking about it, Emo's face sunk, and he asked coldly, "I don't know if something happened to Lan Yu. Gang leader Peng, ask this person for me. Does he know the whereabouts of Lan Yu? If he really had the guts to do something to Lan Yu, I will kill him right now. Yes, if Qianbei doesn't mind, just call me Yuji. Don't call me gang leader," Peng Yueji humbly stated. Emo nodded. "Alright, then you can be the same as Zhu Zi and Shi Kaijin." Hearing Emo agree to his request, Pingyueji made up his mind to not disappoint Emo. He turned to talk to Fred and used one threat after another. Fred might have done human trafficking, he still couldn't stand the threats and yells of Pingyueji. Soon, he told everything. Hearing Pingyueji's explanation, Emo was speechless. Although Fred was a human trafficker, it's not like he sold everyone. He had to make sure they were safe to traffic. Lan Yu wasn't safe, so he didn't intend to do anything to her. Instead, it was Lan Yu who found him. When Ning Zhongfei was leaving America, Lan Yu met up with Fred once again. She took out a card with 100,000 US dollars and wanted to bribe him. How could Fred not take the money that was given to him? He took the card immediately and promised to introduce Lan Yu to a new company, and told her not to worry. Fred wasn't planning on doing anything to her, and was really going to introduce her to a small company, and just finish things up. But at this moment, CGK heard that Fei Yu got the spot for Asia and immediately wanted to renegotiate with Fei Yu. This was Fred's job, so Fred got really worried. If this deal was exposed, he would be screwed over for sure. As long as Lan Yu knew that her company was chosen, this deal would get exposed. At that time, not only would Fred lose his job, he could also face jail time. Therefore, Fred could only lock Lan Yu up. At this moment, Ning Zhongfei happened to call. Fred forced Lan Yu to report that she was safe and took her phone. At this step, Fred was planning to sell Lan Yu after all, so he called an organization called 5 States and sold Lan Yu to them. Having listened to all this, Yemo's voice went cold. He looked frostily at Fred. "Where is this 5 States? After Pingyueji had asked the details of where to meet the 5 States and where their HQ was, Yemo threw a fireball without hesitation. This was the first time Yemo had used a fireball in front of them. Even Shikaijin and Tongzhu were shocked, much less Pingyueji, who saw Yemo for the first time. At this moment, they realized that they were far from knowing Yemo. They had only witnessed a part of Yemo's power. No one had been able to force him to show his true power yet. "I'm going to 5 States immediately. Kaijin and Zhu, stay with Yueji first." Yemo was very uncomfortable thinking that a human trafficking organization had taken Lan Yu. Lan Yu hadn't been through much hardship up until now. She was living in a spacious, grandiose room. There were even a few maids serving her. She was really confused. She understood, of course, that she had been tricked by Fred. Although she didn't comprehend why she was being served like this as someone who had been sold, Lan Yu knew her situation wasn't good. She regretted her naivety. It had always been her husband doing the business trips, and only when her daughter got old did she also help. It was only after moving to U State that she learned how hard it was doing business. Seeing their company gradually decline under the will of Yuan Bei, she was also very desperate. This time she had come to America to seek cooperation with CGK but was rejected without hesitation. She didn't expect the person whom she bribed to be so greedy and even sell her. If it wasn't that when some black person was about to violate her, she told them she was the CEO of Fei Yu, she would have been raped already. Lan Yu felt something was very odd. After she said that, someone kicked that black man away and even killed the man. Lan Yu hadn't witnessed the bloody scene, but she still felt gratitude to that person who helped her. That person was a low-level leader here, so her treatment changed for the better soon. Not only was she moved away from the people being sold, all her belongings were returned to her too. More than that, they also brought her to this luxurious place to live and eat well. But no matter how good the conditions here were, it couldn't stop her desperate longing to go home. If she had known that Fei Yu was going to get the spot, why would she have stayed so shamelessly to negotiate with CGK? Lan Yu wondered though, was Fei Yu's reputation that good nowadays? The person enduring the greatest hardship now wasn't Lan Yu, but the big boss who had just bought this human trafficking organization. Although 5 States was a human trafficking organization, they didn't operate just in the field of human trafficking. The big boss of 5 States was a Chinese man called Shaowen. He only has one arm. Even if Fei Yu had gotten the only spot in the world, they wouldn't care. But this Fei Yu's CEO had another identity. mother-in-law of that slaughter god Yemo Sha Wan knew clearly how strong Ren Sha was. He could make anyone die by his will. He had seen many powerful ancient martial artists try to challenge Ren Sha, yet all of them had died. Aside from that, Sha Wan also knew Ren Sha's cultivation method, using other people's lives to increase his own power. When Ren Sha had wanted to kill Yemo, he had sent killers everywhere. But this pissed Yemo off, and he came to Hong Kong from Chunnan in an extremely short amount of time. Even now, Sha Wan still didn't know how Yemo came to Hong Kong. And exactly this kind of tough guy like Ren Sha was not only killed by Yemo, but even the entire Earth Fiend organization, other than him who had escaped with one arm, was completely massacred. Even Ren Sha's base seemed to have been searched by Yemo. Afterwards, Sha Wan also went to Hong Kong to investigate secretly. Ren Sha couldn't be more dead. Compared to Ren Sha, Nanqing and Meadow River was nothing. They had all offended Yemo, and all of them disappeared or went into decline. If there was one person in this world that Sha Wan didn't dare offend, then it was Yemo. He didn't think that Yemo wouldn't be able to find him here. He was sure that if Yemo wanted to kill him, then even if he hid on the edges of the earth, he would still die. Sha Wan fled to the USA, wanting to use this human trafficking business to store up wealth and start another hitman organization. But this business earned just a little bit of name for itself, and he offended someone like Yemo. This made Sha Wan very annoyed and worried. That's why when he knew that the person he had captured was Lan Yu, he immediately decided to let her eat well and live well and send someone to get Fred. But the people he sent reported that Fred was gone. This got Sha Wan even more worried. If he couldn't think of a way, he would be gone for sure. Once Yemo came here, he would be done for. Quickly get Co. Lan over here. After finding out that Fred was missing, Sha Wan immediately began to worry. His original plan was to capture Fred and ask for forgiveness in front of Lan Yu, but now Fred was missing. Quickly get Co. Lan over here. After finding out that Fred was missing, Sha Wan immediately began to worry. His original plan was to capture Fred and ask for forgiveness in front of Lan Yu, but now Fred was missing. Wait! Sha Wan stopped his men and tidied his clothes. I'll go myself. Lan Yu was anxiously waiting in the luxurious room when Sha Wan walked in nervously. Co. Lan, I'm Sha Wan of 5 states. My men are stupid and actually believed Fred's words, so they were disrespectful to Co. Lan. Please forgive me, Co. Lan. Sha Wan apologized and made a 90-degree bow. Lan Yu looked at Sha Wan in confusion. Since when did human traffickers become so polite to the people they kidnap? Seeing Lan Yu not talk, Sha Wan quickly said. Co. Lan, in fact, I tried to capture Fred, but he has gone missing currently. Hence, we haven't been able to find him yet. Although Lan Yu was still confused, she said, I don't need you to say you're wrong, I just want to leave. All I want now is for you to let me go. Sha Wan wiped the sweat off his head. No problem. Of course you can leave. There's a card here, the password is all ones. Although I know Co. Lan isn't short on money, this is my compensation for all my mistakes. Lan Yu didn't understand what was going on, but this was what she wanted. As for the reason, if she couldn't think of it, she might as well not think about it. When he brought her back onto the streets, Sha Wan wiped the sweat off his forehead and ordered. Send 2 people to secretly protect her. If anyone dares offend her, don't blame me for being rude. The Luoyu conference was over. Out of all the companies present, the unhappiest had to be the Yuanbei Corporation. It was the largest pharmaceutical company in China with its power spread all over the globe. More than that, in the Hefeng area, the Yuan family was the local overlord. Even the vice-mayor had to consider his words. But today, the young CEO of Yuanbei Corporation was slapped in the face by Luoyu's COU in front of a few hundred corporations from all over the world and had been escorted out of the place. This was a complete insult to Yuanbei Corporation. Yu Miaodan, I don't care how popular your Luoyu Corporation is, nor who is behind Luoyu Corporation. If I don't send you to the 18th level of hell, I, Yuan Qibing, am a pig. Ning Qingxue, Don't think that just because you have Luo Yu supporting you, you can forget about everything. When you kneel in front of me begging for mercy, you will know who's boss. Yuan Qibing smashed the last cup on the table and finally calmed down a little. Yuan Qibing always thought himself a calm and elegant person. The reason he was acting out like this was all because of Luo Yu and Ning Qingxue. A woman in her 30s wearing a light blue professional dress walked in. She bowed respectfully to Yuan Qibing and then took out a folder, handing it to him. Young CEO, this is what I managed to investigate. Luo Yu Corporation's sudden rise to fame is due to the support of Hong Kong Mo Family Corporation. Yuan Qibing didn't look at the files and frowned. Hong Kong Mo Family Corporation? Did they know Luo Yu had such a powerful product at the time? Who's the big boss behind Luo Yu? The woman replied. They aren't registered in China, and their data is completely safeguarded. With our current resources, we can't find out their registration information. Aside from that, there is more bad news. The new health pill they are producing is listed as a military cooperation. It's said that the military is having negotiations with them now. What? Yuan Qibing suddenly stood up. He wasn't dumb. Although he wanted to annihilate Luo Yu immediately, he knew this wasn't to be rushed. If Luo Yu caught the military's eye, then it would be hard for him to do anything. Although his Yuan family was not bad, they weren't enough in comparison. They couldn't even know much of the inside news. Immediately obtain the recipe for the 2 pills before they start their cooperation with the military. And don't they have a pharmacist called you? Take her to Hefeng secretly. As for that Ning Qingxue, can a woman I want fly away? Did you find out who is supporting Luo Yu? After his moment of anger, Yuan Qibing had returned to his cool countenance. Those who knew him would know this was when he was at his angriest and scariest. The woman replied, We can't tell for now. Yu Miaodan prepared a lot of things herself. She's very capable. Capable? Haha, the more capable the better. I like capable women. Hope she's as capable in bed too. Though this woman is a bit old, she can serve as an entry. Yuan Qibing laughed hysterically. This woman didn't seem to mind Yuan Qibing's laughter and said calmly, Ning Qingxue has for some reason left Beijing. When we found out that she was going to Ninghai, she had already left. She just flew to Hong Kong and is now waiting for a flight to San Francisco. Yuan Qibing stopped. He was confused. This was the glorious moment of all for Fei Yu. How could she, being the big boss, leave? Anyway, the more alone she was, the better it was for him. Have you found out whether she's married? Yuan Qibing asked. Yes, she is. Her husband is the former young master of the Yi family, but because he wasn't welcomed and was found out to be of bastard blood, he was kicked out of the Yi family. After he married Ning Qingxue, he soon disappeared. The woman replied. Yuan Qibing walked to her and grabbed her ass, squeezing and rubbing. Alright, not bad. It was unknown whether he was referring to her work or her ass. However, she remained calm and didn't look harassed at all. Just when he was about to reach his hand into her chest, the phone sounded. Yuan Qibing picked up the phone and just spoke a few words before putting the phone down. He said to the woman, Go out first. Yes. She walked out of his office calmly, and without even tidying up her clothes. Seeing this woman walk out, Yuan Qibing called again, yet this time, his voice became cold and calculated. If someone heard him now, they wouldn't connect him to the Yuan Qibing who sounded infuriated and threw things around. Uncle Ping, what did my dad say? There were no more emotions in his voice. A clear and deep voice sounded. Young CEO, the CEO is here. I'll hand the phone to him. Soon afterwards, a voice that sounded a little old could be heard. Binger, I know about what has happened. Those Luo Yu guys are indeed very cocky, but before we act we need to investigate things clearly. Our number 1 rule of the family is to do things carefully, and take revenge swiftly. We try not to offend people, but once we do, we need to beat them to death. We can't give them any chances of survival. Yes, Dad. I've already investigated them. They don't have that big of a support. I just received news that Ningqingxue is preparing to go to San Francisco in 2 hours. Not only did he sound slower and more respectful, his tone itself was full of reason. But don't underestimate that husband of Ningqingxue's. Although he has gone missing, from what the Song family members said, this EMO doesn't seem to be simple. The leader of the Song family, Song Qiming, has ordered the Song family members not to offend EMO. I don't know if this is related to the Yi family, but since there was such an order, you need to be careful of that EMO. Yuan Qibing replied. I know, however the Song family and Yi family were never as strong as they claimed to be. Their opponents didn't even do anything, yet they started to decline. The Song family was even kicked out of Beijing. If Jason pissed him off, he just might be the one to kill Jason first. However, Ping Yueji was still the leader of a gang. He couldn't just not see him. Compared to the gangs in Chinatown, his organization was more obscure. Invite him in. Although Ping Yueji was a gang leader, he didn't have enough importance for him to go out and greet him. When Earth Fiend was renowned throughout the world, who had the right to look down on him? No need, I'm in already. A clear voice sounded and 2 people walked in. Sha Wan knew Ping Yueji, of course. He was also in San Francisco after all. But he noticed that the person who was talking wasn't Ping Yueji. Instead, it was the young man in front of him. As a gang leader, Ping Yueji was actually 3 steps behind this young man. Just when Sha Wan wanted to ask who this young man was, he saw his face and quickly got up as if his ass were on fire. 5 states Sha Wan greets Emo Qianbei. Sha Wan kneeled down on one knee. He knew Emo was very capable, but he didn't expect him to come to the state this quick, having the gang leader of Tang Gang showing him the way. At this moment, it had only been a few hours since Lan Yu left. Sha Wan's back sweated uncontrollably. Emo had come too quickly. Not only was Ping Yueji in a daze, Emo as well looked confusedly at Sha Wan. Ping Yueji knew his reputation wasn't as grand as that of the big boss of 5 states. Although these guys hadn't been here for that long yet, their name was already pretty big. A few small gangs had wanted to chase them away, but they all disappeared in one night. It was unknown whether because Jason didn't care about the small interests here, or because he too was concerned about the 5 states that he didn't do anything about them. Yet today, their big boss was actually kneeling down. You know me? Emo looked at Sha Wan, who only had one arm, and asked plainly. Sha Wan quickly nodded. Yes, I was once the leader of Earth Fiend. Qianbei killed that bastard Ren Sha, and I managed to escape with my life. I'm very grateful to Qianbei. Hearing Sha Wan's words, Ping Yueji was having tsunamis in his heart. He had never thought that Sha Wan was the former big boss of Earth Fiend. Many stories concerning the disappearance of Earth Fiend circled in the world, but none of them were certain. Ping Yueji now finally knew that the hitman organization Earth Fiend that made the entire world cower in fear had actually been annihilated by Emo. He realized once again that he had underestimated his new big brother. 5 states' fame wasn't that big, but he was sure that if people knew the big boss of 5 states was the former big boss of Earth Fiend, then no one would dare try anything with 5 states. Emo nodded. No wonder when I killed the goo bugs, 2 of them didn't have full vitality. So one of it was yours. I think there were 2 that escaped. Didn't expect one of them to be the big boss of Earth Fiend. Please have mercy, Yi Qianbei. There was nothing but a deep feud between me and Ren Sha. I'm only grateful to Qianbei and mean no disrespect. Sha Wan quickly said. He didn't expect that other than him, there had been someone else who also escaped. Emo waved his hand. You don't have to put it like that. It's thanks to your own capabilities that you were able to escape. As for those people who tried to mess with me, I would never give them a second chance. But I didn't come here to ask you about this today. I think since you know that I'm Emo, you've done your research on me. With your capabilities, I'm sure you can guess why I came today. Yes, Yi Qianbei. Yesterday, my men were dumb and listened to the words of this guy called Fred. he brought Seo Lan to my place. Luckily, Seo Lan declared who she was, and I immediately brought her to a safe place. I killed those people who brought her here as well as a black man who tried to assault her. Furthermore, I wanted to go kill that Fred, but he went missing. Sha Wan answered with fright. He didn't change anything to the story. Yemo nodded. Since Sha Wan had recognized Lan Yu's identity, he wouldn't dare do anything to her. Seeing Yemo nod, Sha Wan finally felt a little relieved and continued. A few hours ago, I already sent her away and ordered 2 men to secretly protect her. I believe she's at the airport now. At this moment, Yemo's phone sounded, and he picked up. It was Shikai Jin, saying that he had seen Lan Yu at the airport, and she didn't appear harmed. Yemo hung up and said to Sha Wan, "Stand up. You did well, I owe you one." Sha Wan stood up in surprise and joy. He wouldn't have expected Yemo to be so easy to talk to. Not only did he not use this chance to punish him, he also willingly said he owed him one. Yemo's favor was no ordinary thing. Thinking about this, Sha Wan said excitedly, "Yi Qianbei, this is what I am supposed to do, you're being too polite." Yemo waved his hand. "No need, I can help you do one thing within my ability in the future. For now, I'll be going." Qianbei, Wanbei would like to dare ask Qianbei to stay for dinner. Sha Wan knew this chance was rare and quickly uttered. Yemo said plainly, "I don't like being around human trafficking." Then, Yemo left along with Ping Yueji. In San Francisco, although the Vietnamese gang wasn't the #1 most ancient gang, it was definitely one of the older gangs, possessing great power. In San Francisco, although the Vietnamese gang wasn't the #1 most ancient gang, it was definitely one of the older gangs, possessing great power. When the Chinese gang had been at its prime, the Vietnamese gang was barely able to survive. After the Chinese gang was annihilated, the Vietnamese gang and mountain gang took over large amounts of territory and developed rapidly. Until today, where the Vietnamese gang had become the second largest gang. Xu Hongxing, who had great aspirations but low capabilities, was leading his Hong martial gang on a path of decline. They were far from comparable to the Vietnamese gang, and the Tang gang, with restricted land and wealth, was even worse. The leader of the Vietnamese gang was called Jean Jiaonan. He had been a high-ranking officer in the Vietnamese military, but because of his insubordination and the killing of his superior's beloved woman, he became a wanted criminal. Thus, he fled to America and established the Vietnamese gang. Jean Jiaonan wasn't someone Xu Hongxing could compare with. He had gotten the news of Yemo charging into the Hong martial gang's base and massacring the Grey Alliance. Now that Jean Jiaonan also knew that the Grey Alliance had been annihilated, he guessed that Yemo's next stop would be his Vietnamese gang, for no other reason than because Yemo wanted to find out Sister Yan's whereabouts. And that bracelet had been robbed precisely from the Vietnamese gang. Even though Jean Jiaonan believed that the Vietnamese gang wouldn't lose to anyone in Chinatown, he wasn't so cocky as to think he could annihilate the Grey Alliance. So, when he heard that Yemo had done so, Jean Jiaonan's face turned very bad. He was sure it wouldn't be long before Yemo came to their HQ. Shi, what do you think?" Jean Jiaonan really wished to retreat, but he didn't want to leave the empire he had here. Also, subconsciously he thought that the reason Yemo had managed to annihilate the Grey Alliance had to of course be related to his power, but also for a major part because Jason must have underestimated Yemo. If he was prepared, and bombarded Yemo with heavy firepower the moment he arrived, Jean Jiaonan believed that Yemo would have no way to escape. Shi's full name was Li Erxi. He had come from Vietnam to San Francisco together with Jean Jiaonan and had helped him build the gang. It could be said he was Jean Jiaonan's strongest help. Li Erxi mused a bit before saying, "We don't know this Yemo very well, but he was capable of easily killing the more than 20 people Johnson had brought and subjugated Johnson with ease. It's clear that he's really powerful. Whether or not it had anything to do with Jason underestimating him, we need to deal with him very carefully. But just as you said, no matter how strong he is, if we surround Emo and spray bullets all over him, how can he live? Urxi, you mean that we should fight? Jin Jiaonan's eyebrows raised. He was of the same opinion but just felt something wasn't right, hence he had asked Li Urxi. Li Urxi nodded seriously and said, I have two suggestions. 1. We immediately leave San Francisco as far away as we can. Since we can't understand Emo, we can avoid him. 2. We simply kill him. Once he enters our trap, we concentrate our fire and just kill him. No matter how strong he is, he can't avoid that much fire power unless he can fly. Jin Jiaonan heard Li Urxi's words and clenched his fists, punched in the air. Let's do it. I refuse to believe that he can fly. We've been building what we have in San Francisco for decades. I really can't just let it go like that. Urxi, gather up all the brothers in the gang and let's do this. At this moment, in a simple room in the HQ of Tang Gang, Emo sat at the top with Ping Yueji, Shi Kaijian and Tong Zhu on the side. Brother Yi, do we go to Jin Jiaonan's base now? Shi Kaijian had known Emo for the longest, so he just asked. Emo shook his head. If after this we all left, then it would be fine to go up to their door right now. However, after this you guys will be staying for the moment, so it wouldn't be good to charge up to their doors immediately. Yueji, what do you think? Ping Yueji bowed before replying. Brother Yi, I think we should attack at night. Tonight, there's a clash between Mountain Gang and Hong Martial Gang. If we wait until night to annihilate the Vietnamese gang, then it'll be unlikely for anyone to intervene. And after the two gangs clash and we eradicate the Vietnamese gang, then our Tang Gang will be able to grow rapidly here. Emo nodded. This Ping Yueji had some brains and thought the same as him. Although it was very easy for him to annihilate Mountain Gang, for the Tang Gang to grow afterwards, they would have to get rid of Hong Martial Gang. But the two originated from the same gang. It wouldn't be good to just kill them off like that. Let's do this then. Tonight, I will go to the Vietnamese gang. After Mountain Gang and Hong Martial Gang clash, Yueji will bring people to take over the turf. Take the Vietnamese gang's land too, and Grey alliances as well. This expansion was nothing to Emo, but as for Ping Yueji and company, they were all too excited. In the future, Tang Gang would be the biggest gang in all of San Francisco. The HQ of the Vietnamese gang was at a pier. Emo believed that they must have already gotten news of him annihilating the Grey Alliance. Indeed, as soon as Emo arrived, his spirit sense noticed people hiding, ready to ambush him. Although they didn't have as many weapons as Jason had used, some of them even took out rocket launchers. The moment Emo stood in their trap, all these attacks would come smashing at him. Even Emo wasn't confident he could escape with that many weapons firing at him. Jason had still been of the mind to play games with him, but seeing these Vietnamese gang people, they would definitely try to kill him straight away. He's already here. He's about 250 meters away from us. Far away, Jin Jiaonan and Li Urxi watched Emo on a device. He turned to leave. Did he see it? Should we attack? Li Urxi noticed that Emo was going to leave, getting further and further away. Jin Jiaonan's face changed as he spoke with satisfaction. Don't attack. If we attack him now, he would be injured at most. We probably can't kill him. We shouldn't scare him, so wait a little while longer. Emo didn't go all too far. He knew that as soon as he had gotten near, his actions had been under surveillance. He turned back to the pier and turned invisible. Then, with his fastest speed, he started killing his way to those gang members ambushing him. A few minutes later, Emo appeared in Jin Jiaonan and Li Urxi's view again. He's back! And he's entered attacking range, Li Urxi said with excitement. Jin Jiaonan also became very thrilled. He thought that as long as he killed Emo tonight, no one else would be able to pose a threat anymore. Open fire! Jin Jiaonan ordered and also raised his own gun. However, there weren't the loud bangs of guns he had imagined, nor were there any explosions. Jin Jiaonan was just about to start shooting, when he found that the gun in his hands had disappeared. Standing in front of him and Li Urxi was a young man with a sneer on his face. You are Emo. Li Erxie's heart sunk to the bottom. He knew that it wouldn't be easy to kill Yemo, but he had still underestimated him. Yemo grabbed a rifle and bent it. The gun barrel turned into a U-shape. I am Yemo. Yemo dumped the gun and kicked Li Erxie away as he sat down. Jin Jiaonan and suddenly noticed blood flowing from where his men had been hiding before. He pointed at Yemo in terror. Yemo, what did you do to my men? How dare you kill all of my men, you? Yemo looked at Jin Jiaonan as though he was an idiot. You're saying that I went too far? So I shouldn't kill your men and should just bring over my head to you? Li Erxie stopped Jin Jiaonan. He knew that Jin Jiaonan was different from Jason. These people Yemo killed were all his brothers he had brought along from the army. Every one of them was precious to him. And now Yemo had killed them all. No wonder he was extremely furious. But Jin Jiaonan was obviously dumbed by his fury. No matter how angry he was, the person standing before them could take their lives at any time. Yemo, I realize that we underestimated you, and now that you killed all of our brothers in the gang, what do you want? Under what conditions can you let the two of us go? Name your PS, Li Erxie said calmly. Hearing Li Erxie's words, Jin Jiaonan also gradually calmed down. He took note of the situation he was in. Yemo could kill him like a chicken at any moment. He regretted not taking Li Erxie's first suggestion. He should have abandoned everything here and taken his brothers away from San Francisco. How could someone who could effortlessly annihilate the Grey Alliance be taken out so easily? It was already too late by now. Only when Jin Jiaonan had calmed down did he finally realize Yemo's terror. It was already too late by now. Only when Jin Jiaonan had calmed down did he finally realize Yemo's terror. Tell me any news you have about Sister Yin. I will decide whether or not you live based on that, Yemo said plainly. I can hand over the entire wealth our gang has accumulated all these years, Jin Jiaonan offered. Yemo sneered. You think I care about that little money of yours? To me, it's much too simple to earn money. I will give you 1 minute. If you don't speak up now, there will be no second chance. Before Yemo said anything else, Li Erxie recounted. More than 10 years ago, the Grey Alliance fought the Chinese gang and ordered us to come along. At that time, our power was too weak, so we didn't dare disobey. We could only send out 10 of our brothers to help. 2 of them indeed met Sister Yin. A guy from the Chinese gang who was protecting Sister Yin killed one of our brothers, while the other brother escaped. And then recently, I heard that you got that bracelet from one of our men. It turned out that that bracelet had been taken from Sister Yin by the brother who escaped. He had reported that although he had seen Sister Yin, she had escaped. Aside from that, he never mentioned anything about getting a bracelet. Jin Jiaonan quickly nodded. Yes, that is what happened. Sister Yin wasn't anyone important anyways, so even though she disappeared, no one cared to investigate. Yemo could tell the two weren't lying and that they knew very little. He had come to the US to investigate the bracelet, but the lead died off here. Thinking about this, Yemo got annoyed. He raised his hand and gave the two of them a fireball each. The next day, the biggest news in San Francisco was the clash between mobs with the police attacking suddenly. In one night, many gangs had disappeared, returning peace to the citizens. Of course, this was just the official story. The actual situation was that Grey Alliance and the Vietnamese gang had been annihilated by Yemo, and the Mountain Gang and Hong Martial Gang had both been heavily wounded, hence they were all scooped up by the police. Now, the Tang Gang was the biggest gang. Although there were a lot of small gangs, no one dared fight for interests with the Tang Gang. At this moment, Ning Qingxue sat on the plane towards San Francisco with her brows tightly locked together. Their Feiyu Corporation could finally rest easy, yet now, she couldn't contact her mother. To her, her parents' safety was the most important, and the company's prosperity came after that. If something happened to her mother, then no matter how well things were with Feiyu Corporation, it wouldn't be what she wanted. So, knowing that her mother had gotten lost in the US, the first thing Ning Qingxue did was to go to San Francisco from Hong Kong. The plane flight was more than 10 hours. Ning Qingxue rubbed her head and tried to relax. She took out a fireball charm and looked at it carefully. It looked like an exquisitely decorated piece of paper. She had told Tang Beiwei that she was going out for a few days, and Tang Beiwei persuaded her to take this. Tang Beiwei gave her more than 10, she couldn't reject it, so she took them and put them in her bag. Without what had happened with Su Jinwen, Ning Qingxue would think there was something wrong with Tang Beiwei, but now, she didn't dare think of the charm as something useless. Just when Ning Qingxue was studying the charm, 2 ordinary men walked past her seeming like they were going to use the toilet. But when they walked past her, Ning Qingxue suddenly felt her necklace go a little cold. If it were before, she wouldn't think much of it, but now that she knew her necklace was a defensive artifact, this sudden coldness made her alert. She subconsciously looked at the 2 men, and at this moment, one of them looked back. He immediately avoided her gaze. There was something wrong with these 2. Ning Qingxue quickly stood up and wanted to report this suspicious situation, but the moment she did, the middle-aged woman next to her suddenly pointed a gun at her and said softly, "Mrs. Ning, please don't move around. My gun isn't very obedient." At this moment, Ning Qingxue had understood that these people were targeting her. She sat down slowly and looked coldly at the woman. "Who are you? What do you want? You don't need to worry about that, you just need to remember that you're under our control now. We're not hijacking the plane though, we're here to invite Mrs. Ning to be our guest." The woman smiled. In her eyes, it was really an insult to her identity to use a gun against a weak woman like Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue didn't feel very anxious and declared frostily, "Tell me who you are, Elle. If you don't, I will resist immediately." The woman smiled. "It's fine if I tell you. However, it's not because I'm afraid you will resist, but because you will soon see that person. His surname is Yuan, shouldn't have annoyed him. So it's that scum." Ning Qingxue sneered. She didn't think that Yuan Qibing would be this bold to abduct her on the plane. The 2 men didn't come back, but Ning Qingxue was sure that they were watching her from close by. Seeing Ning Qingxue quieten down, the woman didn't say anything further. Their mission was to watch Ning Qingxue until Yuan Qibing came over. "Nobody move! We are simply hijacking the plane, not killing anyone. But if someone doesn't do as told, then don't blame us." The 2 men suddenly took out their guns and pointed at the passengers. Ning Qingxue was stunned. Was Yuan Qibing crazy? No matter how much power he had, can he really hijack a plane? Is he not afraid of dragging the Yuan family into a bottomless pit? Ning Qingxue subconsciously looked at the woman beside her, and noticed that she was very shocked too. Ning Qingxue immediately realized that the thugs and the woman weren't from the same group. They just happened to be on the same plane. Although Ning Qingxue was calm, not everyone was as calm as her. A fat man immediately screamed and ran off from his seat. Bang, blood spilled and he crashed onto the ground. The plane was silent. Even the cries of children were stopped by adults. There was only suppressed sniffing. At this moment, the plane suddenly started shaking. Some people's faces were already getting pale. Bang bang, there was the feeling of losing balance. Everyone feared that it was the end, the plane was crashing. The plane became boisterous again. 2 white men who just got up were immediately shot. As they fell, the 2 thugs yelled again. "Everyone sit down! Anyone who disobeys will be executed immediately." At this moment, the plane finally stabilized and seemed to be gradually ascending. Ning Qingxue took a small breath of relief. She wasn't afraid of death, but she didn't want to die here for no reason. Everyone started to calm down as the plane stabilized. Just as the thugs had promised, they didn't want their lives. At this time, a man walked out with a HKMP-5 assault rifle in his hands. He waved to the 2 men pointing guns at the passengers and walked along the aisle. Every time he saw a young and beautiful woman, he nodded and appeared to be delighted. Ning Qingxue's heart sunk. Just when she wanted to find something to cover her face with, that man stood in front of her. For a long time she didn't hear him say anything. Ning Qingxue looked up to see this man staring dazedly at her. He had even started to drool. "Yash, Chinese woman, you are so beautiful. You come out." This man pointed the gun at Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue shook. She knew she was done for. This person wasn't going to let her go. She desperately tried to think of a way to get away from this person, but couldn't think of any. Then, the other two started muttering in Japanese. So they were all from Japan. Ning Qingxue suddenly thought of the middle-aged woman beside her and grabbed her hand and said, "Didn't you say you were going to take me to America? If I'm taken away by these people, how are you going to bring me to the US? If you don't protect me, young Master Yuan will be very angry." Ning Qingxue was prepared to die, but if she did, she was going to bring Yuan Qibing's person down with her. As expected, the middle-aged woman's face went pale, and she quickly said, "This has nothing to do with me. I don't know you, let me go." But no matter what she said, that man only got more impatient, so he grabbed the woman and tossed her to the side, starting to spray her with bullets. She was soon soaked in blood. "Women are the most precious thing to us. Now that I've already killed her, if you still waste my time, then don't blame me for what's coming next, pretty Chinese woman." He pointed the gun at Ning Qingxue and threatened. That was actually Chinese, though the pronunciation was a bit off. Ning Qingxue originally planned to get the gun from that woman, but looking at her body soaked in blood, she felt disgusted. She didn't know where the woman had hidden the gun. Now that the Japanese kept pointing the gun at her, she could only stand up and walk to the end of the plane. There were also 2 hijackers at the end of the plane. It could be seen that this was a big crew. But Ning Qingxue didn't care. She was thinking about how not to be raped. The 2 men saw this guy and bowed. He kicked open a door and aimed the gun at Ning Qingxue, signaling her to enter. Seeing Ning Qingxue walk in, he closed the door and laughed. "Chinese woman, take off your clothes. Let me admire your body first. You are the prettiest Asian I have ever seen. Today, you will be my woman." The man went to a seat and sat down. Ning Qingxue's eyes brightened up. She saw a parachute in the room and there was an emergency door. If she could get this parachute and jump out from there. Ning Qingxue's heart started beating rapidly. She really didn't want to die like that. There were too many things she still had to do. "Hurry up, don't make me do it. If I do it, you won't be so comfortable. I like my women tamed." The man saw Ning Qingxue start to look around and was getting restless. Ning Qingxue suddenly smiled sweetly and sat down. Upon seeing this smile, the man who was getting impatient was dumbfounded. Such a beauty! He felt his heart beating fast. Just imagining how this woman was about to be his, he couldn't hold the excitement in his heart. Dong Beninji had seen too many beauties and taken countless of them, but this was the first time he saw someone like Ning Qingxue who would make him feel as though he were in heaven just by gazing at her. And this goddess in front of his eyes was about to be his. This almost made him doubt reality. But soon he refocused. He knew that on the plane he might be the boss. Once they got off and got into the base, this woman wouldn't be his. "I'd like to know why you hijack a plane yet don't want money. Why do you need such a big plane?" Ning Qingxue asked. Her hand was grabbing onto a fireball charm. The question was just to distract him. She didn't know if the fireball charm Tang Beiwei gave her would be of any use. If it wasn't, she would be no match for this guy. So, she didn't dare use the fireball straight away. She had to find something to kill herself with before the event of the fireball charm turning out to be useless. Even if she had to die, she couldn't be assaulted by an animal. "You asked too many questions? But, my beauty, since you're about to enter the base, you are one of us. It's fine if I tell you. You can call yourself lucky. This plane has Professor Yaestein in it. He is the person we're looking for. Of course, everyone else on the plane is a bonus, and will be serving our great country. You should be honored that you're about to be a part of our great empire." Dong Beninji said with pride. "Professor Yaestein?" The 2 times Nobel Prize winner for chemistry? Ning Qingxue was really shocked. She didn't expect the professor to be in Hong Kong and take the same plane as her to San Francisco. What did these people want a chemistry professor for? Ning Qingxue suddenly figured, did these people want to start World War III? She suddenly thought of one more thing and said, 3 years ago, a nuclear physicist called Webrode disappeared on a passenger jet. 5 years ago, the electron specialist Pili. They. Dong Beningji laughed. Your imagination sure is good. But yes, you're right. They are all serving our great empire at our base. Ning Qingxue was shocked. These disappearances were all related to them, yet for some reason, it had remained unknown who did it. Ning Qingxue shook. She remembered what she was about to do and suppressed the thoughts in her mind. Ning Qingxue noticed a small dagger not far away. She rejoiced and ran towards it. Dong Beningji saw this and sneered. He sent a palm towards Ning Qingxue. Thud! Ning Qingxue grabbed the dagger as Dong Beningji was blocked by a white barrier which shocked him away, sending him crashing into the metal wall. Dong Beningji looked at his palm in astonishment. It was red as though he just slapped a very hard surface. He looked at the woman, and there seemed to be nothing in front of her. Grabbing the dagger, Ning Qingxue rejoiced. This defensive necklace was useful indeed. She could rest easy now. Even if her fireball charm turned out to be useless, she could commit suicide with the dagger. At this moment, Ning Qingxue was full of gratitude towards Yemo. If it wasn't for Yemo, that palm would have injured her, and there would be no way for her to get the dagger. Dong Beningji seemed to notice something was up and grabbed the gun beside him. But before he could raise it, Ning Qingxue threw out a fireball charm saying Lin. Rumble! A ball of fire flashed, deforming Dong Beningji into a mess of flames. The fire burned rapidly, and it took just a few moments for Dong Beningji to be turned into charcoal before he even had time to cry. Ning Qingxue looked at this scene in shock and couldn't make sense of it. She was still wondering if the fireball charm would be useful or not, when instantaneously it turned a living person into charcoal. There was not a single drop of blood left. An extreme sense of disgust surged up and Ning Qingxue started vomiting. Her brain was in chaos, still not comprehending fully what had just happened. After a long while, Ning Qingxue calmed down and eventually wrapped her head around things. Everything that just happened was real. She quickly walked up and grabbed the gun. So these fireball charms are genuine too? Ning Qingxue murmured. If what had happened didn't seem so real, she would have thought she was dreaming. So these fireball charms are genuine too? Ning Qingxue murmured. If what had happened didn't seem so real, she would have thought she was dreaming. Bang bang! There were 2 more gunshots, and Ning Qingxue had just realized her current predicament. She was still on the plane, and these people seemed to be hijacking it to some base. If she went into that base, there would be no way for her to ever run away. Thinking about this, Ning Qingxue no longer dared to hesitate, and quickly set up the parachute. Luckily, she had learnt this in uni. Ning Qingxue put the parachute on and grabbed a big bag, putting in some food and water. Then, there were more gunshots as someone seemed to be walking over. Ning Qingxue quickly opened the emergency exit and jumped off. In one night, the San Francisco Mafia powers had been washed over. However, the government was busy investigating the alien invasion and didn't have time to care. With another plane from Hong Kong to San Francisco suddenly disappearing, this increased the government's efforts in the alien investigation. Yemo left Shikaijin and Tong Zhu here to help Ping Yueji develop Tangang while he went back to Beijing. Since he couldn't find out where Sister Yan was, there was no point in staying in the US. He had too many things to do, the main thing being to gather herbs and go to the small world to get revenge from Tai. Returning to Beijing, Yemo already knew that the Luoyu conference was long since over and that Fei Yu had been chosen. Yemo was very happy with this. It didn't matter if other companies gave Luoyu more benefits than Fei Yu. He felt it was right to help his father-in-law out. Moreover, Yemo believed that even though Ning Qingxue lost her memories for the moment, one day, she would remember everything again. Ning Qingxue was someone he loved, and she was his wife. He wouldn't let their family's company be dominated by the will of another company. Yu Miaodan and company had already gone back to Flowing Snake. Emo decided to go see Ling Tu before returning to Flowing Snake. Xiao, please let me go. Can't you give me a chance to pursue happiness? If you really like me, let me go. Stop pestering me. A crisp woman's voice sounded, but what caught Yemo's attention was the name Xiao. Yemo looked up and saw Xiao standing not too far away. There was a young girl standing in front of him. She looked not bad, but because of the way she dressed, Yemo didn't like her. Yemo was surprised to meet Xiao here. Ever since he left Ninghai Uni, he had never seen him again. And due to all sorts of things later, he didn't have the time to go looking for him. Now that he saw Xiao, Yemo was very happy and walked to him. Tan, you know my heart for you. Why are you still leaving? Those people are lying to you. Tan, don't leave, we can start again. Believe me, we can start again. Xiao was about to cry. Yemo frowned and stopped his steps. Start again? The girl sneered. Start again with what? You don't even have a job now, and you're about to go to jail. Are you going to drag me with you? If you really want the best for me, then please let me go. You gave me this necklace, now you can have it back. The girl dumped a platinum necklace in Xiao's hands. Please don't come looking for me again. Then Tan turned to leave. Xiao suddenly called. Tan, if you don't come back, you will never see me again. Tan turned around and looked coldly at Xiao, declaring, threatening me with death? Then go die. I will be happy if I don't see you. Afterwards, a red sports car came over and parked not too far from Tan. Tan, get on. The windows of the car opened, revealing a fat, coarse face. Tan smiled and ran over. She opened the door and kissed that coarse face. Xiao looked on the side in shock. There was no more blood running through his face. Yemo sighed. He felt this world was becoming more and more like his world. In Luoyu continent, power was everything. Here, money was everything. There was no difference. Yemo walked in front of Xiao and patted him on the shoulder. Brother, you're a man, why worry about not having some woman? Although this woman looks not bad, it's better to stay away from her. Xiao turned his head over numbly, but soon his face was colored in surprise. Yemo, it's actually you? I went to look for you a few times but never found you. As though the trauma from the girl had disappeared, there was only joy in his eyes. Yemo was his true friend. After graduation, he realized that although many students were polite and nice to him, once something happened, they all stayed away from him in fear of being dragged down with him. Yemo studied Xiao. His hair was messy, and he was dressed very casually. He seemed miserable. Xiao, what happened to you? Why are you like this? Didn't you say you had a place to go after graduation, a government department or something? Yemo asked strangely. Xiao's eyes went dull, and the joy of seeing Yemo faded a lot. Yemo noticed and knew something big must have happened to Xiao, so he said, Let's find a place to talk. Xiao nodded and after a while asked, Yemo, how have you been after graduating? I had some things going on before graduation, so I wasn't able to connect to you. And then, when I went to find you, you had already left Ninghai. Yemo smiled. I've been quite well recently, I even earned some money. Xiao looked at Yemo's clothes. Although they were clean and tidy, they didn't seem to be very good brands. He knew Yemo's character. He loved face, so Xiao didn't point it out. However, he didn't know that the Yemo in his impression was completely different to the current Yemo. Yemo was really grateful to Xiao. If it wasn't for him, he might never have woken up and may have disappeared forever. And Xiao had been truly nice to him, he was genuine. Let's go drink. Yemo pointed at a bar not far away. Xiao looked at the name and shook his head. Wutong Bar, you need a gold card for that and it's very expensive. Let's go to a different place. You need a gold card. Yemo hesitated. He didn't care about money, but he didn't have the gold card. He couldn't just steal one again like last time. Yemo didn't want to do that just for finding a place to talk. Then let's go to a different place. Just after Yemo finished, he saw a woman carrying a child standing in front of him. Aren't you my savior? Dr. Mo? This woman walked in front of Yemo and bowed while calling out in joy. It's you! Yemo also recognized the person. It was that girl he met on the train. He remembered her name to be Wang Yan and that she had been infertile. Then, he gave her 3 herbs and now, she was carrying a child. It seemed she was cured. Wang Yan pulled the man beside her excitedly and said, Dawei, this is the Dr. Mo I told you about. Who would have thought I'd see him here today? The man heard Wang Yan's words and quickly bowed to Emo. He was really grateful to Emo. These past couple of years, although they had saved quite some money, they hadn't been able to get a child, which troubled them greatly. Hence, they thanked Emo from the bottom of their heart. Mr. Savior, I was stingy before and didn't even give you a card. You must take this card now no matter what. Before, Wang Yan had suspected Emo was a fraud and didn't give her card to Emo. She regretted it so many times afterwards. So the moment she saw him, she took out a card. Emo waved his hand. No need that. I still have some money and don't really need it. But I don't have a gold card for this bar. If possible, can you two bring us in? Yes, of course. The man pulled out his gold card and gave it to Emo. Although Emo wore ordinary clothes, he had experienced far too many things doing business. Emo didn't take it. Although he wanted the card, he couldn't just take someone else's. I still have another here. Wang Yan saw Yemo's hesitation and quickly took out her card and said, In that case, I won't be polite. Emo took the card. Seeing Emo and Shishio go in, Wang Yan pulled her husband and said, Dawei, let's prepare a card in a bit, and then go to their spot to drink with them. We mustn't miss this chance to thank him. Sorry, there are no more free rooms. Emo looked around casually. The place looked like a bar but was of a much higher standard than that. Emo scanned with his spirit sense and knew that there were still a lot of rooms available, especially the high-class ones. However, since they didn't give him a room, it meant the gold card level was too low. Thus, Emo didn't mind, and he just spoke a few words. Since there are no more free rooms, just give us 2 cups of coffee to take outside. Looking at Emo and Shishio walk towards a corner of the main hall, the waitress finally felt relieved. She was most scared of meeting those who had low-level cards but thought they were number 1. The coffee was delivered quickly. Emo waved the waiter away and then asked Shishio, Tell me, what happened? I've looked for you a few times before graduation but couldn't find you. What happened in your family for it to take so long? Shishio stayed silent for a long while before sighing. Emo, if you were still in the Yi family perhaps you could help me out. But now, what's the point of talking about it? Sigh, it's all in the past. Emo drank the coffee and urged Shishio, if we're friends then tell me what happened. If you don't, how do I know if I can help you or not? Shishio's eyes went red. Ever since he left uni and things happened, no one had ever said they were his friend. But today, he heard the word friend again. Emo, looking at you, I know you're a whole lot better than me. At least, you're no longer affected by yin. Shishio drank all of the coffee as his eyes seemed lost. He quickly continued talking though. My dad used to be the governor of the town of Cha-Ci. The reason I said I had a place to go to after graduation was due to my dad. After graduation, I was able to become a government official at the office in the local government. And due to my achievements and my dad's connections, half a year later, I rose to the position of vice manager. Emo frowned. Although he didn't understand politics in China, half a year after graduation and he became a vice manager, this was too fast. If there was someone to support you then it was fine, if not however, it would be a double-edged sword. and Shishio's dad was only a town governor. If that town belonged to a small city, then this governor would be even lower ranked in power. How could his dad bring him to be at the managerial level? Was it your dad or someone else that promoted you? Yemo suddenly asked. Shishio looked at Yemo in shock. He had also connected the dots later, yet Yemo asked this question instantaneously. Although Yemo wasn't involved in politics, it seemed his awareness was better than his. Shishio held his fists tightly. It wasn't my dad. It was the town vice-governor that my dad didn't really like. Shishio sighed. After my dad was taken away, I went around borrowing money trying to get my dad out. I spent a lot of money, but dad still remained inside. A lot of the money had interest. I already sold our house, but it's still far from enough. The court has notified me that if I don't pay it back, I will be locked up in a week. How much do you owe? Yemo sighed. He believed Shishio had fallen into a trap borrowing money. Those people asking for interest know how much Shishio had in assets, but were still willing to lend him money. No way, there was nothing dodgy about this. The loan is 200K, but including the interest, it's now 500. 000, Shishio said sadly. Even Yemo slammed the table in anger. How can the interest be that high? Boss Wang, why are there so many flies in your bar? A strange voice sounded. Two young men walked into the bar just now with a middle-aged man carefully accompanying them. The young man walking at the front also had two bodyguards behind him. Hearing the young man's words, that middle-aged man quickly said, Young Master Chio, please go inside a room first. Why bother with these insignificant things? Are you saying that I'm being unreasonable? The youth asked as his face sunk. No, I'll make them leave immediately to prevent them from ruining your mood. Yemo's eyes went cold. It seemed that less and less people knew him after he'd left Beijing. Even some random guy dares kick him away. Shishio pulled Yemo and said, That guy is doing it on purpose. I know the person following behind young Master Chio. The vice-governor who schemed against my dad is his big uncle. He's called Dong Jia, a student of Beijing University. He definitely saw me and is looking for trouble. That young Master Chio isn't simple. Yemo, let's go first. Yemo understood now. No wonder there was such a cocky person. So what if someone slammed the table? You two go out, this place doesn't welcome you. Two security guards came in front of Yemo. Piss off. Yemo looked coldly at the two security guards. If you don't piss off in 3 seconds, then don't blame me for the consequences. Fuck, you're asking for it. One security guard pulled out a baton and was about to smack down on Yemo. Don't fight, Dash. Wang Yan saw something happen to Yemo and quickly called out as she ran over hurriedly. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.